Hello. Welcome back to Economics Prep by Examlify. Today we're going to be solving the JAM Economics paper of 2023. Now, in terms of difficulty, I would rate this paper from about moderate to difficult. That is why this video is going to be very important for you. So be sure to watch it till the very end. Let us start solving the paper. Alright guys, let us read the first question. It says that a competitive firm can sell any output at price P is equal to 1. Production depends on capital alone. The production function y is a function of k, is twice continuously differentiable with f0 is equal to 0, and you are given a bunch of information. The firm has positive capital stock k bar to start with and can buy and sell capital at price r per unit of capital. So if firm is maximizing profit, then which of the following statements is not correct? Okay. So this is a fairly easy question. The only thing that can give you trouble is that most of the information here is given to you in basically mathematical equations. Okay, so that might seem a little jargonish to you if you have not practiced such types of questions before. Okay, so let us write down the first equation, which says that f0 is equal to 0. What does this mean? It just means that when capital is equal to 0, then y or your output is equal to 0. Okay, that is just what it means. Then you have that f dash is greater than 0. What is f dash? What happens when you differentiate the production function? You get mpk, right? You're gonna get marginal product, and since you only have one input, which is capital, it will be mpk, right? So after that you have f double dash is less than 0, which means that mpk is a positive function, but it is a decreasing function. mpk is falling. Okay, then you have these two equations. Okay, now let us read and understand what these are. The first one is saying that as capital approaches 0, your mpk will reach infinity. What does that mean? Let us take an example. Say you have a farmland. Okay, you have a farmland, you haven't started farming yet, but you want to. So the first unit of capital or the first unit of your input that you apply, that is going to give you the highest production. The per unit production that it gives, or out of every single unit of your capital, the first unit is going to have the highest productivity, right? So as you increase the units of capital, the productivity of per unit production is going to fall, or your mpk will be falling. Okay, that is obviously the law of you have to tell me what this law is called. Okay, you have to tell me in the comments what this law is called. Okay, when you increase the inputs, your output starts to fall, right? So that is going to be very important. So that is just what this states. And the second one is saying that as capital reaches infinity, your mpk will become 0. Obviously we know that already. First of all, let us try and write down the profit function, right? So the profit is what? Then what we're going to write is, we're going to write the variable k minus k bar. The reason I wrote this is that we are not paying for k bar. That is that is the capital stock that we already have. Okay, and we can buy or sell more capital at the rate of or at the cost of price r per unit, right? So that is why this is going to be our profit function. We can simplify this by writing that y is a function of k, and sorry, I'll just write these separately so that this is what we get. This is your profit. So now just differentiate this with respect to k. So you'll get d pi upon tk is equal to, and also price is given as 1, so we'll just write f dash k minus r is equal to 0. So you'll get that mpk is equal to r. Okay, that is going to be an equation that we'll use later. All right, so now let us read the statements one by one. The first one just says that if k bar is large enough, profit maximizing y is equal to 0, and profit is is r k bar. Now my suggestion, first of all, listen very carefully, is that I would suggest you to just solve the statement logically. Alright, some of the statements in the actual exam as well, you will be able to just apply your logic, or if you are going to solve it numerically as well, at the end when you have, if you have extra time or not, just try to think about it for a second. Is it logically coherent? Is your answer logical? Okay, now let us try to look at the equation one more time. We said that this rk bar is basically just a constant value that is being added to it. So regardless of our level of production, let us take the example of the farmland again. Regardless of our level of production or the level of capital that we have employed, this is basically just kind of a rent that keeps on coming to you. It is a fixed level of income basically. Okay, you can just call it free money. Okay, so that will keep coming to you regardless of how much capital you employ, and the question has not mentioned anything about it. What we have seen here is that because at the initial stages of the employment of capital, your marginal product of capital is very close to infinity. It means that your marginal product will be very high at the initial stages of employment of capital. So you should definitely employ capital in the beginning because the firm is rational. Do not forget. ठीक है? Do not think that you are the firm here and you don't want to work. You are very lazy, so that is why you will just take rent. No, that is not what we are doing here. The firm is rational. Okay, that is why it will take every single penny of potential profit that it can. And that is why here, if it is saying that your profit is just rk bar, then you are saying that it is leaving out the initial profit that we could have gotten if we employed capital. So that is why this statement is absolutely incorrect. Okay, so that is the logic that you must apply in the actual exam, even if you are trying to solve it numerically as well. If you are able to solve it or not, that is up to you. But after that, definitely try to just use your logic for a second and see if the answer is logically correct. Alright. So now let us try to understand the rest of the statements as well. The second one says if f dash k bar is greater than r, firm will buy additional capital. Just try to understand it in the simplest way possible. No need to overthink. mpk is greater than r. Your whatever you are gaining, okay, your marginal product is greater than the cost of capital. Obviously you are going to be employing more capital, and yes, that is what it says as well. So this is obviously right. Then if your marginal product is less than your cost of capital, if your capital is more expensive than what it is able to produce at the moment, then obviously you are facing a loss. Then you will sum some level of the capital. Absolutely correct. If both of them are equal, then you do not have to sell or buy any capital. That is also absolutely correct at that point. So these three statements are also right. You could have solved it this way also, that the next three statements are right, or you could have just looked at the first statement and you could have logically solved it, that it was clearly very wrong. Okay, let us move on to the next one. Okay, so now read the second one, which says that let f, g be two functions from r to r be defined by this, and you have to check for the convexity and concavity of the f and g functions. All right, so how do you do that? Let us say that you have a function fx. First of all, you differentiate it. You find the slope of the function. The first derivative is the slope of the function. Then you differentiate the slope. If the double derivative is less than 0, that means it is a concave function. What does this mean, this part? It means that if the slope of the function is a decreasing function, it is a declining function, then the function is concave. Okay, so even without using the differentiation method, there are other methods as well which you can use to solve it, right? Like what? Like for example, in this question, you have fx, right? You have fx. So first of all, let us solve for fx below 1. Okay, we have the function fx in two different domains. It is broken up below or equal to 1 and above 1, right? So find f dash x for x is less than or equal to 1. It is equal to 1. Then f dash x for the second part, which is x is greater than 1, is equal to 2. Okay, so this is what you have, right? So now what you will see is that as x is increasing, f dash x is increasing. So you can say that your slope is an increasing function. The slope of f increased. This just means that f double dash x, or slope of f, is greater than 0. It means that it is convex. It is an increasing function. All right, so you can say that f is convex, or either this is right or this is right. So you can eliminate these two. Now you check for the convexity of g. So do the exact same thing, right? I'll just write it here. So it is 2 here and it is 1 here. So as x is increasing, g dash x is decreasing. This means that g double dash x is less than 0. Alright, so this means that g is a concave function. Okay, so g is concave. Right, very easy. The third one says that let S be a feasible set of LPP, which is P. If the dual problem of P is unbounded, then very important standard property of the primal dual and the LPP in general, which is that if either the primal or the dual, if either one of these is unbounded, then the reverse of that is going to be infeasible. Okay, that is a standard property. So here S is going to be empty, where S is the feasible set of the primal problem, right? The linear programming problem. So your answer is B. Okay, let us move on. Alright, so now let us move on to the fourth one, which says which of the following is not correct. Let us just read all of them really quickly. A quasi-concave function is necessarily a concave function. Concave is necessarily quasi-concave. Quasi-concave can also be quasi-convex, and quasi-concave function can also be convex function. Alright. So there are a few points to remember here. First of all is that quasi-convexity or concavity is a weaker condition to prove than concavity or convexity, right? So to say that a concave function is necessarily a quasi-concave function, this is true, because first it will be quasi-concave and then it will be a concave function. So every concave is a quasi-concave. This is absolutely true. But is the opposite true? The weaker condition is proven. Does that mean that the stronger condition must be true? No, that is absolutely false. So both of these are right, obviously, but even if you read them, then this is true. If you just take the example of a linear function x, that applies to options C and D both. Okay, x is a concave function, it is convex, it is quasi-concave, and it is quasi-convex. Okay, it is just a linear function, right? And as for B, you can take something like root x. Okay, so you should be knowing all of this. You should first of all know the actual intuition behind it, that how you just draw a graph basically. If I just take that to a new page, you should know that how you can just draw a graph, and let us say that you draw a convex function. So you should be able to prove that this function is convex. So you just take any point A, you take B, then you take any middle point. So the midpoint formula you use, which is lambda A plus 1 minus lambda B, that is the formula to find a midpoint. So then you take it to the y-axis. This is f of B, this is f of A, this is f of just write C, which is C is this. Then you take the midpoint of f of B and f of A, which is somewhere here. So this you will write again the same formula, lambda f of A plus 1 minus lambda f of B. So you will say that whenever this value is greater than f of C, right, f of the lambda A plus 1 minus lambda B, then you will say that this is a convex function. And if this would have been lesser, then you will say that it is a concave function. So similarly, you should know about quasi-convex and quasi-concave as well. Okay, let us move on. So let us look at the fifth question now, which says that among the following statements, which one is correct? So you have the first statement, which says that x square plus y square is a level curve of this, and you have to prove whether these two things are the level curves of these two functions f and g. So yeah, many students say that the 2023 paper was one of the toughest paper, and yes, I do agree with that. Reason being that it is not just testing your like calculations and all. This is very core conceptual knowledge, and these are not some of the very, let's say, famous or very important topics that you see every year, right? Level curves and all, definitely they are part of the syllabus, they are mentioned in the syllabus, so we obviously do them. But some students may skip these, right? And that is where you were tested in the 2023 paper. So let us try and understand how to solve this. If any equation is a level curve of a function, then if you just substitute that equation into the function, you should get a constant value. If I take this equation and substitute it into f, if I am getting any constant value c, then yes, it is a level curve. That is how you check for a level curve. So let us do that. X square plus y square is equal to 6. So here I can see clearly it says x square plus y square. So I'll do that first. It will become root 6. X square plus y square is 6. Then if I just take the minus sign common, this will also become x square plus y square. So this becomes 6 plus 2. So whatever I get, I don't care about the actual value. I am just saying that I am getting a constant value. So that is, yes, it is indeed a level curve. Similarly, check for this x square minus y square. Try to form this equation into, so that you get the entire equation in terms of x square minus y square. So you know how to do that. The exponents will add up. It will become, you take the minus sign common, x square minus y square, plus you get, you take the constant value here because it is already a constant, so you do not care about it. Then x4 minus, so I'll just write it once, plus y4 minus 2x square y square. So this is the hint. This is going to give it away for you. So you can just write that this is what, minus of minus 3, plus this will become x square minus y square whole square. Okay, this will clearly come to you very easily if you have enough practice. Then this is minus 2, so this is just e to the power 3 plus this is the square root minus 3 whole square minus 2. So again we have a constant value. We do not care about the actual value. So yes, this is also a level curve. So yes, both s1 and s2 are level curves of these given functions. So let us move on. So the next one says that which of the following is not a component of the GDP, like free marks? Nothing to say. Honestly, I have nothing to say. Let's look at the seventh one. So the seventh one says which of the following are direct instruments exercised by the Reserve Bank of India to control money supply? Underline this, understand this. It says direct instruments. That is the keyword here, okay? So your options are CRR or open market operations, foreign exchange rate, or statutory liquidity ratio. This and this you obviously know very well, CRR and the SLR. But when we talk about the open market operations, you should know this as well, that this is also a method where the RBI manages the money supply. Okay, but foreign exchange rate, now something is going to ring a bell inside of your mind where you will remember something, that there is definitely something that the RBI does with the money supply in order to manage the foreign exchange rate, because India's exchange rate is neither fixed nor is it flexible. It is the combination of both of them which is called the managed floating exchange rate system, right? Or it is also called the dirty floating exchange rate. Okay, so that is why you know that in order to maintain the exchange rate at a level, sometimes the RBI does sell or buy the rupee or the dollar, right? So that is why there is definitely some level of control over the money supply. But is it a direct instrument to control the money supply? Even logically, but just by reading these names out, you will say, because look at the options how they are given. Only one is wrong. You know that for a fact. So basically, what you're doing is just choosing the odd one out. So clearly, you can say that you have to remove the third option. So the second option does it. B is the right answer, right? So let us move on. So the eighth one says which of the following committees for the first time recommended for India use of implicit prices derived from quantity and value data collected in household, okay, blah blah blah. Look at the second one. It says mixed reference period. This is enough of a hint for you just by looking at MRP. You have to know, if you have done this topic, you have to know that it is the Tendulkar committee, right? So for every single committee, you must know at least the most famous contribution that they made in the poverty estimation, right? For example, the Alag committee, which recommended the calorie based estimation, right? So similarly, the Lakadwala, which recommended the CPI based poverty line, where the consumer price index was started to be used there, right? So then the Rangarajan committee, which did not just include the calories, but instead it included the stuff like education, health, right? Then it had what else? Clothing, transport, food, and so on. Okay, so these are the factors that you must remember. So let us move on. Then the ninth one, sir, which was the following 5-year plans focused on rapid industrialization, heavy and basic industries, and advocated for a socialistic pattern of society. So just again, just as the poverty estimation committees, for the 5-year plans, every 5-year plan has something that is very famous, and that is your hint, that is your clue. So rapid industrialization, second 5-year plan, without a doubt. Okay, so similarly the first 5-year plan, agriculture. Okay, the focus was there, and the focus was on self-reliance. So self-reliance is something that has been the focus for our country since independence till now. In 2020, you know that a very famous scheme, it was called Atmanirbhar Bharat. What does it mean? It means self-reliant India, right? So similarly for the third 5-year plan, the most famous was basically industry, and most of it was disrupted by wars and so on. Then the fourth one, the Garibi Hatao era, right? And again, self reliance was again a very important topic. Okay, so now let us move on. Okay, so the 10th one says that let M and N be events that are defined on the sample space S. If the probability of M is 1 by 3 and the probability of N dash or N complement is 1 by 4, then which of the following is necessarily correct? So let us solve them one by one. Let us first figure out if M and N are disjoint. So for M and N to be disjoint sets, the probability of M intersection N has to be 0. There is no intersection between the two sets of M and N at all. Probability of M is already given to you. Probability of N is also given to you, which is 1 minus 1 by 4, which is 3 by 4. Okay, so in order for this to be true, you already know the formula. Just write it down, that the probability of M union N is equal to probability of M plus probability of N minus probability of M intersection N. Okay, so we know this, we have taken this to be 0. Let us add these two first. So probability of M is 1 by 3 and probability of N is 3 by 4 minus 0. So we are saying that the probability of M union N is, this is 12, this is 4, and this is 9. So that gives us 13 by 12, which is more than 1, which is not possible. This means that this is not possible, and this means that this is also not possible, which means that M and N cannot be disjoint. They are not disjoint sets. Okay, how do you check for independence, by the way? If you were to check for option 3 and 4, how would you do that? What you would do is, you know the formula, that you take the probability of intersection of M and N should be equal to, when we multiply, or the product of probability of N and probability of N, so that would give you 1 by 3 into 3 by 4, which will be 1 by 4. But the thing here is that we are not given the probability of intersection of M and N. That is why we cannot conclude, or we cannot figure out if this is true or not. So that is why C and D are inconclusive, and what we are asked is which of these are necessarily correct, not which of these could be correct. If there was an option that which of these can be correct, then all three of these would have been correct, right? So now let us move on. Alright, now let us look at the 11th question, which says that consider a two agent two good exchange economy where agent I has utility function max of yi, and obviously there are two consumers. Then these are the initial endowments. Select the correct choice between where the price vector specified is part of a competitive equilibrium. So you are given with two options. So you'll have to approach this logically, and you'll have to have a very strong logical intuition to solve this. Okay. So the thing is that first of all, let us just write down the initial endowment is this, right? 25 5 and 5 5. So let us write down the budget of each. So M1 will be price of x1 px multiplied by 25 plus 5 py. Similarly, m2 is going to be 5 px plus 5 py. So now the thing is that because you already know that we are dealing with a max function, right? So you already know that we are going to have a corner solution, right? Whatever it is, we are going to have a corner solution. So for that, you know that if px is greater than py, you know that you are going to be consuming only y. Similarly, if x is less than py, you will consume only x, right? But if either of these is the case, what happens here is that there will be excess demand for either x or for y. Alright, for the market to truly clear, what you need is that the prices of both the goods should be equal. Okay, so let us see how we can get that. Straight up by elimination, you can see that B is the only option where both of the prices are equal. Okay, first of all, so now let us try and test that option and put it into our equation. So if you basically add these up, you will get 25 into 2 plus 5 into 2. So M1 will be equal to 60. Similarly, M2 will be equal to 20. Okay, so now what you can do is take this to a new page. You know that x1 plus x2, which is total of good x, is equal to 30, and y1 plus y2 is equal to 10. Okay, so if you really think about it, if the first consumer, if the consumer A who has an income of 60, if he consumes only good Y, he is only going to be spending 2 into 10, which is 20 rupees out of his 60 rupee income, so 40 will be left, right? Similarly, if the second guy tries to consume only X, he will have to give 60 rupees, but he only has 20 rupees, right? And we know for a fact that the consumption is going to be at the corner for both of the goods. It is going to be a corner solution for both of the consumers. So is it not the perfect thing to say that the consumer A will be only consuming good X? Consumer A will be only consuming good X, which means that he will spend 2 into 30, 60 total of his income on good X. Similarly, B will only consume Y. He will spend 2 rupees into 10 units, which will give 20 rupees, which is his income as well. Okay, so that fits the picture completely. This is your competitive equilibrium, and the price ratio should be 2 and 2. Okay, so to reach this answer, what all did we need? First of all, we had to know that since it is going to be a corner solution, okay, something like this, or whatever it is, since it is a ratio like this, so something like this, okay, for both of the consumers, and it is always x or y, since we are dealing with a max function. First of all, you need to know that. Secondly, and more importantly, what you need to know is that suppose we take the first option, okay, you take that px is equal to 2, py is equal to 1. What happens here is that since price of y is less, then only y is going to be consumed. They will not buy good x, because we are dealing with a max function. Okay, so that is why there will be excess demand for good Y. This means that market will not clear. This means that Px and Py cannot be a part of competitive equilibrium. Okay, that is the logic here. Both of the markets should clear because we are dealing with a competitive equilibrium in a max function. Okay, so that was the logic here. All right, so let us move on. Alright, so let us read the 12th question, which says that for a firm operating in perfectly competitive market, which of the following statements is correct? So first of all, these are just properties that you should memorize anyway, but can we solve this logically? So the first one is profit function is convex and homogeneous of degree 1 in prices. A very interesting statement. Now before trying to solve this, let us read all of the statements. Okay, it is concave in prices, in prices, in prices. So we are just dealing with the profit function in prices. All right, first of all, so if it was in quantities, your answer will change First of all, that is a very important point that I want to clarify, right? Now let us see what this means. So just write down the profit function firstly. Okay, price multiplied by quantity. We are writing the output in terms of price. We are writing the entire equation in terms of price. Okay, minus the cost, which is cost is a function of output, and function is an output of price in our equation at least. Okay, so this is it, and now let us see what happens if you double the price. If you double the price, this becomes 2p, this becomes 2yp, because it is just a function of price. This will also double 2c, so the whole thing is going to double. You can just take it out, so py minus c. So this is, so basically the entire profit function has doubled. This means that indeed it is a degree, it is homogeneous of degree 1 in prices. This is absolutely true. Now for the difficult part, which is the concavity or convexity part, let us write down the equation again. This is, I would rate this question on the more difficult side of things, definitely. Okay, so sometimes such questions are also there in the paper, but not a lot of students are actually able to solve them. Okay, not a lot of students even attempt them, because this is in the MCQ section, so this carries negative marks as well. So what you can do is now is that you can just differentiate with respect to p. So d pi upon dp is equal to upon dp, which is just the differentiation of dy, because this is not partial differentiation, right? We are differentiating the entire equation. Then you can write c dash multiplied by dy by dp. C dash is just, this part is just dc by dy. Use the chain rule, that's it. I just use the chain rule. So now you are going to equate this to 0. Alright, so dy by yp plus dy by dp, p minus mc. C dash is what? It is marginal cost. It is equal to 0. And now comes the important part. We are operating in a perfectly competitive market. Price is equal to mc. This term becomes 0. So you get what you get is d pi by dp is nothing but y. Okay. Now if you differentiate again, dy upon dp. Okay, this is your final answer. So now we just have to decode what this means, dy by dp. So you tell me what happens if the price increases. Let us say that the price is now more than the marginal cost. Will the firm produce more or will it produce less? Will the output go up or will it go down when the price is higher? This is going to be positive, because as the price increases, y also increases. The firm will produce more and more. We are in perfect competition, right? So that is why this is just positive. So this is positive. So yes, it is going to be convex. Okay, that is our answer. That is how we reach your answer. Okay, so now let us read the 13th one. It says that a firm is operating in a perfectly competitive environment. Very important. A change in the market condition leads to an increase in firm's profit by amount K, which is the following describes change in producer surplus. Don't even read the options. You already know that profit is equal to producer surplus minus fixed cost. If your this part is increasing by K, which is your new producer surplus, then obviously this also has to increase by K. Producer surplus increases by K. Okay, so the 14th one says that two people, 1 and 2, are engaged in a joint project. Person I is basically the first and second player, puts in effort. This is the effort xi. Okay, and xi is greater than equal to 0 and less than equal to 1, and cost is given as this. Monetary outcome of the project is, this is total monetary outcome, and it is split equally between the two players. Okay, considering the situation as a strategic game, the set of all Nash equilibrium in pure strategies is again a very, I would say, difficult question. If we compare that to the other questions that have been asked in game theory in JAM. So we'll start with the payoff equations of both the players. So I'll take that to a new page directly. So for player 1, as you can see that this is given as 4x1 x2 and it has to be split equally. So we just divide it by 2. The payoff for player 1 is going to be 2x1 x2 and the cost is given as xi. So for player 1 it will be x1 minus x1. And how do you find the best response function if you are given with the payoff equation? You differentiate it with respect to x1. So you will get 2x2 minus 1. Okay, you can simplify the first one also. You can just write x1 multiplied by 2x2 minus 1. Okay, then now we take the same thing for player 2. It will be 2x1 x2 minus x2 this time. So similarly the best response is going to look like 2x1 minus 1. You can simplify this also, x2 multiplied by 2x1 minus 1. So we wouldn't need the second player's payoff matrix here. We can just understand it by the first players. So this is what you have, right? This is the equation that we have at hand. Now let us try it at 3 different intervals. Okay, let us test this value at 3 different intervals. If the best response function of player 1 is greater than 0, less than 0 or equal to 0. Okay, so if 2x2 minus 1 is greater than 0, this means that x2 is greater than 1 by 2. Similarly, it would be x2 can be less than 1 by 2 and it can be equal to 1 by 2. Now let us take this to a new page, and here I'm writing the payoff equation of player 1 one more time, which was x1 multiplied by 2x2 minus 1 less than, greater than or equal to. Let us see what happens when we take x2 as less than 1 by 2. Case 1, x2 is less than 1 by 2. This means that the payoff equation of player 1 is going to be x1 multiplied by something that is less than 1 by 2. So basically 2 into, let's say, 1 by 4 minus 1. So this part is going to be negative. So if this part is going to be negative, obviously we cannot take x1 as anything less than 0, because you have seen already that x1 can be 0 at minimum. If this part is negative, okay, is player 1 going to put any effort? Is player 1 going to put any effort if he knows that the outcome is going to increase in the negative direction if he puts any effort? That is why he is going to choose 0. Okay, so that is why here x1 will be 0. He will choose 0 effort here if the x2 is less than half. Similarly, if x2 is greater than half, the payoff for 1 is going to look like this term will be positive. Okay, this means that x1 will choose his maximum effort because he knows that his own payoff is going to be maximized if he chooses his maximum effort in this case. Similarly, when x2 is equal to 1 by half, 1 by 2, then the payoff equation is going to be x1 multiplied by 0. So he can choose anything. Oh, okay, so he is not going to choose any one value. x1 here will be from 0 to 1 in a closed bracket. Okay, so this is going to be the case. Now as a final step, what we are going to do is that we are going to formulate basically an entire table, and it will be a game, and from that game we are going to identify the Nash equilibria. Okay, so first of all, let us just write down the two payoff equations. It was 2x1 x2 minus x1 for player 1. Player 2, it was 2x1 x2 minus x2. This was for player 2, the payoff equation. Now just make a table. Alright, so I'm going to write player 2 here, player 1 here. Okay, this is going to be the values that they take. In the middle, they are going to be this values that are given by the payoff equation. Okay, so here you can write Okay, now what you have to do is that you have to substitute these values into the payoff equation for each of the players, and then you are going to write, fill up each of the cells. Okay, so when player 2 is chooses 0 as his effort and player 1 chooses 0 as his effort, so if we talk about the payoff of player 1, it will become 0 0 0, so it will be 0, and for player 2 also it will be 0. Similarly, okay, so this is what your table is going to look like. Now it is just a 3 row 3 column game. Now you just have to find the Nash equilibrium. It is fairly easy, you know how to do that, so just do that. When this guy is going through here, then player 2 is going to be choosing, basically he's going to choose 0 because the rest two values are negative, right? Similarly, when player 2 goes 0, this guy will choose here, so we have our first Nash equilibrium. When player 2 is going 0.5, now, a very interesting thing that you are going to be noticing is that at 0.5 and 0.5, as we had already seen in the actual equation as well, here when x1 when x1 and okay, this was supposed to be x2. So when x1 and x2 are 0.5, then at that point they can get any value from, basically as we wrote, that x1 can be anything between 0 to 1 when x2 is 1 by 2. Similarly, for the reverse is also going to be true, that when x1 is 1 by 2, x2 can also be anything from 0 to 1. And if you look at the table, why is that? When player 2 is going 0.5, look at p1, 0 0 0, he is indifferent between all of these values. So if he just goes with the middle value, similarly when player 1 is going here, player 2 0 0 0, so he's indifferent between moving left or right. Okay, so if he just goes here, okay, so this is going to be a Nash equilibrium, but this is called an unstable Nash equilibrium. Okay, so that is why regardless of whatever value we are getting here, 0.5 is also going to be a Nash equilibrium. So in the actual exam, I am not telling you to draw this entire table in the real exam as well. I just wanted to show you the working of the table behind it. In the actual exam, this is going to be enough. You have already found that you have used the best response functions to find that when it is less than 1 by 2, then this is 0. Then so basically in that case, x2 is also going to be 0, right? Because anything below 1 by 2, if x1 is 0, then x2 is also not going to put any effort. Then again, when x2 is greater than 1, when x1 is 1, then to maximize the value, x2 will also put his value as 1. When you reverse the thing, and because both of these are symmetrical, as we have already seen that both the best response functions are symmetrical, so here whatever value you get for x1, same you are going to get for x2 as well. So here when x2 is equal to half, then x1 can be anything, so that is also, these are the three cases that you can draw. Okay, these are the only three cases. So that is why 1 by 4 and 3 by 4, we have already seen that when x1 is less than 1 by 2, then for any value the outcome is going to be the same, that x2 is going to be 1. So that is why 1 by 4 and 3 by 4 does not matter to us. So that is why these you can cut. Obviously this you can cut. You have seen that 1 by 2 is going to be there as well. This you can cut, and null set is not true. This is the only option. You can use this approach. Okay, you can use the best response functions, or the second method is just trial and error. You try for each of these inside of the best response function, and you will get the value itself. But there is no need to draw this entire table. I just wanted to show you that how you can formulate a game based on the data that you already had. Okay, so it wasn't that difficult, but definitely you had to do a bunch of working and you had to use a bunch of logic. All right, so let us move on. Okay, so now let us read the 15th question. It says that there are two firms, X and Y, that are operating in perfectly competitive market. Price elasticity of supply of X and Y are given as 0.5 and 1.5. Okay, so this is actually a very good question, because the thing is that the usual questions that you do on price elasticity of demand or supply, they are not very difficult. They are actually very, very easy. Okay, so this is kind of challenging to someone who hasn't really understood the concept of price elasticity. Okay, so this can actually help you a lot. Let's try and understand each of the options one by one. I'll take a new page first of all. So the first one is saying that if market price increases by 1%, X will supply 0.5% lesser of the quantity. Now this one just logically, I mean, I don't even have to write anything. You are saying that price has increased. We are talking about price elasticity of supply, not demand. So X is a firm. He is not a consumer. If price will increase, the supply is going to increase. Like law of demand and law of supply, I do not have to explain here, right? So that is why he's saying, let me just write this down then. You know that the price elasticity of supply is equal to percentage change in the quantity supplied upon percentage change in price. It is given as 0.5. Now the option is saying that there is 1% change in price and 0.5 minus 0.5% change in quantity supplied. It has actually fallen. So is minus 0.5 equal to 0.5? No, absolutely wrong. Rubbish. So this is absolutely wrong. Now the second one is actually very interesting. The second one is saying that Y experiences a slower increase in marginal cost in comparison to X. Now, if you do not understand the concept, you are going to say that what are you talking about? Where did marginal cost come into the picture from? Okay, nothing here mentions the concept of cost. Then how did it come into the picture? The thing is that we are talking about the supply curve, and you know that the marginal cost curve is the supply curve, right? The marginal cost curve is the supply curve. So it is saying that why, okay, I'll read the option later on. So we know that the elasticity of supply for X is 0.5 and elasticity of supply of Y is 1.5. Okay, now let us draw two graphs to understand this. What happens in price elasticity of demand? It follows the exact same concept, right? In the price elasticity of demand, you know that instead of learning like that it is the basically the higher the price elasticity of demand, the steeper will be this or that. I do not believe that. Okay, just look at the graph. If it looks kind of horizontal, it looks like it can be stretched. Okay, it looks basically stretchable. So you will feel like this has some kind of an elastic in it. Okay, it can be stretched apart because it is like it looks like it is being stretched, right? It is horizontal. So that is why you will say that the the elasticity of this line is high when it is horizontal, and when it is steep it looks like that this cannot be stretched. The elasticity is low for this curve. Okay, so that is how you are going to remember this. So when the elasticity is lower, the supply curve is going to be flatter, or will it be steeper or flatter? It is lower. Okay, so that is why it is not being able to stretched very easily, it is steeper. Similarly, when the elasticity is higher, that means it is more flatter. We do not care about the exact shape, we are just comparing the two, that for firm X it is going to be steeper, and for this one it is going to be flatter. Now you read the option. It says that Y experiences a slower increase in marginal cost in comparison to X. We have seen that the supply curve or the marginal cost curve of Y looks like this and of X looks like this. So the marginal cost, okay, so you should know obviously that when we are talking about two curves here, on the y-axis we have cost, we have price, we have ACMC, all of that is on the y-axis. On the x-axis we have the quantity, so the quantity supplied in our case. So here this is for y, this is for x, right? X is steeper. So this is for x. You know that the marginal cost for x is going up faster. You can clearly see that. For y it is going up slower. It is flatter. So that is why Y experiences slower increase in marginal cost is absolutely correct. This is the opposite the opposite of that. That is false. And what does this say? This say that 0.5% increase X supplies 1%. No, it is basically 1 by 2 and not 1. Sorry, this says that the elasticity of X is going to be 2. So that is also not the case. Okay. So that is how basically you understand the entire concept through the graph. Alright, so let us move on. Alright, so now let us read the 16th question, which says that let y is equal to yx is a solution curve of the differential equation. If y1 is equal to e square, y2 is equal to alpha, then the value of dy by dx at 2 comma alpha is equal to. and you are given a differential equation. So let us solve it step by step. It is just a normal differential equation question, nothing too difficult about this one. Just take dy by dx on one side and simplify it first of all. You'll get y by x log of y by x. So do the exact same substitution. We did this in the 24 paper as well. Just take y is equal to vx. So v is equal to y by x. And from this you get dv by dx is equal to v plus x dv by dx. Okay. Now substitute this back into the original equation. You will get something like v plus x dv by dx is equal to v ln log v. Okay, so now take v to the other side. X dv by dx is equal to v log v minus v. So you can just write it as v ln v minus 1, right? So now do what we do. Take v terms on one side and x terms on the other. So you will get dv divided by v ln v minus 1 is equal to dx upon x. You integrate on both sides. Okay, let me take this to a new page. So what you can do here is that if you take log v minus 1 is equal to u, this would mean that 1 upon v dv is equal to du, and you have 1 upon v dv, right? So your integration on the left hand side is going to look like du upon u. So basically just log u, and u was log of v minus 1, and on the right hand side you'll just get log x. So what you can do here is that you can just do a, like, it is a very basic manipulation. You should know this in the integration part, that if you have something like log x plus c, you can just write it as log x plus log c, because log c is also going to be the same constant value, we don't care about it. So then log, this would make it log of cx, right? So when we remove the log, when we take the exponent on both sides, you'll be left with log of v minus 1 is equal to cx. Okay, that is after taking the exponent. So this is what we are left with. So you can just replace the y by x now. V was equal to y by x. So log of y by x minus 1 is equal to cx. Now you put the constant values here. First of all, you plug in this. So x is equal to 1 and y is equal to e square. So you get e square minus 1 is equal to x is equal to 1, right? So c. So from here you will get that c is equal to 2 minus 1. So c is equal to 1. Okay, you have c, the value of c. So you replace that in the actual equation that you had. So you will get log of y by x minus 1 is equal to x. This is the final equation that you have. Easy. Now from here, okay, and on the front page itself, I'll write down what happens if we just take dy by dx. Dy by dx was what? It was equal to y by x log y by x. In terms of 2 and alpha, it will look like alpha by 2 ln alpha by 2. This is what we are dealing with. So what we are trying to find here is alpha by 2. So what we are trying to do here is that we are trying to bring this equation in the format of one of these options. Otherwise, even this is like conceptually right. So we here, if you just plug in the value of alpha by 2, or basically y and x, you'll get log of alpha by 2 minus 1 is equal to 2. So you'll get log of alpha by 2 is equal to 3. Okay, if you just plug this, here, you will get 3 alpha by 2, and that is one of the options. So we basically, what we were just trying to do is that this much we already had directly from the question itself. We were just trying to bring it down to a value so that it matches one of the options. That is all that we have done here. Okay, the 17th one says that let 2z is equal to minus 3 plus root 3i, where I is obviously, you know that the imaginary number is the root of minus 1. Then 2z to the power 8 is equal to, and you have a bunch of options. So this is again slightly on the more difficult side, because the mastery that IIT Guwahati showed in making this paper was that they did not ask any question that was out of the syllabus. They stayed inside of the syllabus, but they just asked a bunch of questions that are not usually asked, that are all mostly given very low weightage or no weightage at all. So for example, the De Moivre's theorem, or however you pronounce the name. So the De Moivre's theorem is hardly given any weightage at all in any test, but they asked a question on it, right? So that is why it shows you the importance of completing the syllabus as well. But again, if you are short on time, you just have to focus on the more important topics. So let us start. Let me take it to a new page first of all. Alright, so first of all, divide it by 2, divide the whole equation by 2, so that we just have z on the left hand side. Now to convert it to the polar form, you know that z is equal to r cos theta plus I sin theta, and you know that to apply the De Moivre's theorem, you should have z to the power n is equal to the whole thing cos theta plus I sin theta. This whole thing to the power n just means that r to the power n cos n theta plus I sin n theta, right? This is the formula. But to actually reach this form, we need a bunch of stuff. For example, theta, we need r. Before that, we cannot use this equation, we cannot use this formula, right? So now let us try to find all of that stuff. First of all, r, you already know how to find it. You square both of these coefficients and you add them up, and then you root them up. So minus 3 by 2 whole square plus root 3 by 2 whole square. So you will get something like, you will get root 3. Okay. So now the second thing that you have to do is that tan alpha, first of all, is equal to the modulus of the coefficient of I divided by the coefficient of A, which is just the first term. So and the modulus of that, so root 3 by 2 divided by 3 by 2, because we are just going to be ignoring the minus sign. So you will get 1 by root 3. That is tan alpha. From this, you know, now comes the tricky part, because a lot of students do not know how to find the angles. I'll just give you a very quick tutorial on it. That let's say that you have a graph like this. Okay, so you start on angle 30, then you land on 45, then you go to 60, then you go to 90, and you have 0 here, you have 90 here. Okay, so when you are talking about sine, you just need to know sine and cos, and no, basically you just need to know sine, and the cos is going to be the exact opposite of that, and from just sine you can calculate cos, and then you can calculate tan as well, sine upon cos, right? So just memorize the values for sine. Sine goes from 0, okay, then it goes to 1 by 2, then it goes to 1 by root 2, then it goes to root 3 by 2, then it goes to 1. Now the even and easier way to do this: 0, 1 by root 1 by 2, root 2 by 2, root 3 by 2, root 4 by 2. These are the values of sine. The angles are 0, angle is 0, 30, 45, 60 and 90. Now I don't feel like that if you have seen this even once, you are ever going to forget the values of sine. And if you can remember the values of sine, you will remember the values of cos. You start from here. When you are talking about 0, we are here, then add 30 here, 45, 60 and 90. Then if you have the values of sine and cos, just divide sine theta upon cos theta is equal to tan theta. Okay, very simple, right? So we had 1 by root 3, right? So for 1 by root 3, you are going to be having to divide. So you need root 3 in the denominator, right? So this is what you need in the denominator. So sine theta upon cos theta, right? So you can just write that for cos theta, when is root 3 by 2 in the denominator, when the angle is 30. So if we do that, and if we just take the same thing for sine as well, you'll have 1 by 2 upon root 3 by 2. So this gets cancelled and you are left with 1 by root 3. So yes, that is indeed the case. Here our angle is 30. Alpha is pi by 6. Pi is 180. So the only reason that I'm doing this is that I know that a lot of you haven't brushed upon the trigonometry parts in a very long time. So that is why I felt like this would be a very effective revision for you all. Okay, so this is alpha. How do you reach to theta? To reach to theta, first of all, we are going to see two things that are the term on our x-axis. The term on our x-axis, we talk about the first term, the constant term is negative, and our coefficient of I, which is we take it on the y-axis, that is positive. So that means that y-axis is positive, x-axis is negative. So we are talking about the second quadrant. Now when we are talking about the second quadrant, when do you think that we are going to get a line that is symmetric to the angle of 30 here? What angle should it be? We just draw an exactly symmetric line. So for to reach here, what you do is that you take this angle, which is pi, you subtract this angle from pi. If you do that, you are going to reach an exactly symmetric line on the other quadrant. Okay, that is how you think about it. So theta is going to be pi minus pi by 6, which is equal to 5 pi by 6. That is your theta. So now you have everything that you needed. Now you just have to plug it into the actual equation. So z is equal to root 3 multiplied by cos 5 pi by 6 plus I sine 5 pi by 6. Okay, now finally on this equation we can use the De Moivre's theorem. Now you will use the De Moivre. Okay, so just apply it. Z to the power 8 is equal to root 3 to the power 8 multiplied by cos 5 pi by 6 into n, which is 8, and I sine 5 pi by 6 into 8, which is again, this will give you, so just simplify that here in a small box, 40 pi by 6. Okay, so what you just do is that you have to just subtract any multiple of 2 pi, which is 360 degrees. You subtract that from this value so that you reach this same point. Okay, it is because it is a circle, so you'll just reach a same point, right? So first of all, simplify this further. You'll get 20 pi by 3. Then subtract any value. If you subtract 6 pi, you are going to get 2 pi by 3. Simple. Or if you just wanted to take it directly, 20 pi minus 18 by 3. Whatever is the nearest multiple of 2, so as to reach the same point, and obviously not get 0. So this is what you get here. Okay, you'll multiply 6 by 3 so as to get 18. Now you take 2 pi by 3 into the equation, so you get 81 into cos 2 pi by 3. And what is, by the way, 2 pi by 3? It is just 2 by 3 into 180, 60. It is equal to 120. So to get 120, the value at 120, you go from 90. Again, you start going backwards, right? You are at 90. So now to go to 120, this is the symmetric of, it is symmetrical to 60. Right, it is at a difference of 30. So you, for sine, you are going to get from here, you go here, root 3 by 2. Similarly for cos, you will get this one. Okay, so it is plus I sine 2 pi by 3. This will give you 81. And a very, very important thing to keep in mind is that from cos, we started from 1. We have reached 0 for cos at 90. Now we are going negative for cos. Okay. So you'll get minus 1 by root 2. And another mistake that I made is that I had written minus 1 by root 2. It should have been minus 1 by 2. Now when you multiply by 2, you will just get minus 1 plus root 3i, because we are multiplying by 2 in the actual question as well. So 81 into minus 1, yes, this is the one. Your answer is B. Okay, so definitely it took some time. So these are the questions that you usually solve in the second or third round if you have time. Okay, so you should, if you have time, obviously during your preparation stage as well, only then you do these parts, right? Because they require some time to clarify the concepts. Let us move on. The 18th one says that let an is equal to 1 plus 1 by n whole to the power of n by 2 be the nth term of a sequence that you are given here. Then which of the following is not correct? So you have a bunch of options. First of all, let us just simplify this further. You are given that an is equal to 1 plus 1 by n whole to the power n by 2. You know obviously by now that this part is nothing but e. I have solved it before as well in the 2024 paper, and I have included that in the notes as well. So this part basically I'll just write it as raised to the power of n whole to the power of 1 by 2, right? This is how we can write it. So this becomes just e to the power of 1 by 2. So this is an. Okay. Now what we are being asked is that first one says that an is bounded. Yes, it is a constant value which is root e. Then an is increasing. So to find out if an is increasing, if we just look at this term here and ignore the root sign, okay, ignore the 1 by 2 sign. If we just look at 1 plus 1 by n to the power of n, is this term increasing when n is increasing? Yes, absolutely. You can also try that. If you just substitute in the values, try n is equal to 1, you will get 1 plus 1 upon 1, so you will get 2. Then if you try with 2, you will get 1 plus 1 by 2 to the power of 2, so that will something be like, that will look like 2.25. It will be 1.5 square, right? So as you increase n, this value will keep on increasing, and absolutely an is an increasing function. Then if you look at this one first, this is actually just an identity. Okay, so this part here, this just tends towards the limit, and the limit here is we have already found it that it is root e, so this is also correct. So this one is wrong. And what does it say? Summation of log n when n is going from 1 to infinity, then this is a convergent series. But clearly we have already seen that it is an increasing function and it will not converge. Even if you just talk about 1 by 2 and the summation of it, even that is a divergent function. You should know what functions are divergent and which ones are convergent. Okay, so let us move on. So read the 19th one. It says that consider a linear programming problem and you have to minimize z is equal to this subject to this. Then x star is equal to this is an optimal solution and z star is an optimal value, where w star is an optimal solution of the dual, and these are the values of optimal solution. Then which of the following is right? It is also a slightly longer question. So just write down the things that you are given. First of all, you have to minimize, and the function is given as 4x1 plus 6x. So one thing to keep in mind is that this is a minimization problem. Okay, that is our primal. Our primal is a minimization problem. So obviously let us take this to a new page as well. Our dual is also going to be a maximization problem, right? So write down the dual problem. We have to maximize w is equal to 3w1 plus 5w2. Write down the constraints as well. w1 plus w2 is less than equal to 4. Then you get that this is x2 and this is x3, keep in mind. So 3w1 is less than equal to 6, and here finally 2w2, because this is the second equation, is less than equal to 6. Okay, so complete your equation. It was 3w1 is less than equal to 6. Finally 2w2 less than equal to 6, and you can just write that w1 w2 is greater than equal to 0. So just logically solve this. Do not spend a lot of time in this, otherwise this is going to take a lot of your time. If you just look at the maximization problem, we are trying to maximize this equation, and 5 w2 has the higher coefficient, so we are going to take the maximum value of w2 that is possible. What is it? You are given, simplify this one, simplify this. w2 is less than equal to 3, so 3 is the maximum value that w2 can take. Okay, so write down w is equal to 5 multiplied by 3, and here you are given 3 into w1. because we have to keep this in mind also. So 3 is already gone, only 1. So W1 can be 1. And is this feasible? Yes, it is absolutely feasible. So 3 multiplied by 1. Your W is equal to 3 plus 15, 18. Alright, and since both of the problems are going to be feasible, Z star is equal to W star is equal to 18. Very important result here. Okay, so now again, just solve this logically. You know that this is a minimization problem, so you have to go with the cheapest alternative, which is x1 here, because the coefficient is 4. Other two are equally expensive, so we have to take the highest value of x1 that is going to be possible. So try that out. If I take the value of x1 to be the first equation gives us greater, it is a greater sign, so it can also be 5. If I take x1 to be 5, I'm taking x1 to be 5, so the other two things are going to be 0. So z is equal to just 4 into 5, which is 20, so that is not equal to 18. Now let us try a different value. Let us take it to be 3. So if I take z is equal to, so this part is going to be 0, because x1 is equal to 3. So 4 multiplied by 3, x1 is 3, and plus 6 into 0, x2 is 0, because the first equation we have taken all of it. In the second equation, you subtract x1 is 3, right? This is 3, so this goes on the other side. So 2x3 is equal to 2, x3 is equal to 1, plus 6 into 1. So what does this give? 12 plus 6, 18. Absolutely. So this is our value. x1 star is equal to 3, x2 star is 0, x3 star is 1. Okay, this is what it is. So finally what you can do is that now take a look at the options. They are comparing the x values and the w values on the other side. Okay, so if we look at this, x2 plus x3 is w. What is w1 plus w2? W1 plus W2 is 1 and 3, 4. Similarly, what is x1 star plus x2 star plus x3 star is 4 as well. Both of them are 4. So x1, okay, this should be the right statement, right? And even if you look at the rest of them, this is wrong. Z is 4. This word may also be wrong. You can check that. So check these two statements and check whether these are absolutely wrong. Okay, so this is what you had to do in this question. Let us move on. Okay, so now let us read the 20th question, which says that for alpha beta belongs to R, consider the system of linear equations. This is the system. Then you can read the options. My advice would definitely be that before starting to solve the question, just read the options. Take your time, because the options might give you a hint. So for every alpha is equal to beta, the system is consistent. There exists alpha beta satisfying this equation, for which the system has a unique solution, and then infinitely many solutions. You should know all of these properties, what it means. This one means that it is not equal to 0, the determinant, and this means that the determinant is equal to 0. The consistent can be both unique and infinite. It just means that no solution is not an answer. And then for every alpha is not equal to beta satisfying this equation, the system has infinitely many solutions. Okay, so now let us move on to try to solve this question. And how would you do that? Obviously, there is a method, a very easy method, which would be to actually find out the determinant. You will find out an equation and you can use that equation to get to the solution. First of all, let us just use the equations to see what we can do with it. Okay, so I'll just write this is first, second and third equations. So first of all, what I'll do is second equation minus first equation. So let us see what we get then. First one was x plus y plus z is equal to 1. Second one was 3x plus y plus 2z. It becomes 2x plus z is equal to 1. 2x plus z is equal to 1. So let us use these two equations now. I'll just subtract this one here. 0. This will become minus x plus y minus x plus y is equal to 0. X is equal to y. Very important result that you have found out here. Okay, and again what you can do is that 2x plus z is equal to 1 was also what we had. So z is equal to 1 minus 2x. This is your second equation. Now what we can do is that write the third equation only in terms of x. Okay, let us see where that gets us. 5x plus alpha multiplied by y is just x, plus beta multiplied by what? Z, and z is 1 minus 2x is equal to 3. So simplify this further. 5x plus alpha x plus beta minus 2x to minus 2 beta x is equal to 3. Now take x out common. 5 plus alpha minus 2 beta plus beta is equal to 3. Okay, so now what we can do is that if we assume this system to have infinitely many solutions, what happens is that x, y and z can take any values, and the reason being that their coefficients are 0, which means that in this equation this value has to be 0. Okay, because x can take any value, we are saying that it has infinitely many solutions. This is 0. Let us take that to a new page. We are saying that 5 plus alpha 5 plus alpha minus 2 beta is equal to 0. Only then will the system have infinitely many solutions. Now what this means is, if this part becomes 0, what we are left with is just this part. So this just means that beta automatically equals to 3. This means that this has given us beta is equal to 3. So if we just substitute that here, 5 plus alpha minus 6 is equal to 0. Alpha is equal to 1. Okay, these are two constant values of alpha and beta that we have found out. And if you read the last equation, it says that for every alpha beta, whenever alpha is not equal to beta, that satisfies this equation, the system has infinitely many solutions. That is not true, and that is actually a trap that you could have fell for if you just directly found out the determinant of this system without actually looking at anything else. Okay, so that is why many students made this mistake, but for you the answer has to be C. Okay, because you have found a unique pair of alpha and beta that is giving you this infinitely many solutions in this consistent system. Okay, so that was actually a very interesting question. So as I said, the difficulty of every other question in this entire paper was pretty high, which is why the cutoff was also very low. So this explains to you why that was, right? So let us move on. So read the 21st now. It says that for a positively sloped LM curve, which of the following statements is correct? And you have 4 statements. Before that, you already know that the LM curve is dependent on the money market equilibrium. So real money supply is what makes the LM curve, right? So you can just write Y and R here. So now read the statements. A decrease in a price level will shift LM to the left. Decrease in price level means that this whole equation will increase, real money supply will increase, right? So that would in fact shift the LM curve to the right, so this is wrong. Then lower money nominal money supply, or M, will shift to the left. No, so this is also wrong. Increase in price level will shift to the right. No, again wrong. Basically an increase in the price level will shift your LM to the left, right? So a higher nominal money supply will shift LM to the right. Yes, this is the right option. Very easy. Let us move on. So 22nd says, consider an economy that produces only apples and bananas. The following table contains per unit price in INR and quantity in kg of these goods. Assuming 2010 as, okay, you have to underline this. 2010 is the base year, and using the GDP deflator to calculate annual inflation rate, which of the following is right? So you have the data and you have to calculate GDP deflator for 2011 and inflation rate, GDP deflator for 2012 and inflation rate. So similarly, so basically you just have to find two things: GDP deflator for the year 2011 and the inflation rate for the year 2011, and the GDP deflator for the year 2012 and the inflation rate for the year 2012. So let us try to solve this. And first of all, just write down the formula. GDP deflator you already know. It is the nominal GDP divided by real GDP multiplied by 100. And nominal GDP is the prices of the current year and the quantity of the current year. Real GDP is prices of base year multiplied by the quantity of the current year multiplied by 100. So now write down the formula for inflation rate, which is pi, or just write down pi. Pi is equal to deflator of current period minus deflator, GDP deflator of previous period, divided by GDP deflator of previous period multiplied by 100. This is going to be your formula to find your inflation rate. Okay, now the thing is that if you are dealing with the year, for example in our case, if we are dealing with the year of 2011, then the previous period is just 2010. So this is just the base deflator, right? It is just the base deflator. So that would be, the value of that is just 100, because the prices of the in the nominal and real GDP are going to be the same. So this is 1 and multiplied by 100, right? So now let us look at the table. Prices are 1. Okay, so a very interesting thing that you are going to observe right off the bat, you do not have to waste any time in the actual exam writing down the formula like I did. I just did this for you guys so that you can understand the formula. In the exam hall, first look at this data. Prices of 2010 and 2011 are exactly the same. Exactly the same. This means that the nominal GDP and the real GDP for 2011 is going to be the same. This means that GDP deflator for 2011 is 100, yes, and inflation rate for the, yes, this is the right statement. Right off the bat, you can just read the first statement and you'll know that it is the correct option. Why? The prices remain the same, so there is no inflation, obviously, and GDP deflator is also 100, since nominal is equal to real GDP. Let us move on. Okay, so the 23rd one says, which of the following statements is not correct in the context of an open economy ISLM under floating or flexible exchange rate, price is fixed and there is perfect capital mobility. So for your, these questions are fairly easy. I've given all of the graphs in the notes. So the thing is that when you are faced with such a question, just first of all write down all of the assumptions. So for example, here you can clearly see that there is perfect capital mobility, so R will be equal to R star, or the global interest rate. So if there is any change in the local interest rate, there is going to be infinite capital inflows or outflows, right? And that is going to be affecting the interest rate. So that is why your IS and LM will shift back very fast. Okay, then obviously you have flexible exchange rate. The price is fixed, so the monetary policy is going to be there if the price changes, right? And obviously there is flexible exchange rate, as you can see, right? So if you just look at all of the options, I'll just, right now I won't waste a lot of time on this, all of these options are right. If you look at the third statement, it says that exchange rate has significant impact on determining the equilibrium level of income and employment. There is flexible exchange rate. Okay, and it says that it has a significant impact on determining the equilibrium level of income and unemployment. So this is absolutely false, because the thing is that even though the exchange rate is going to affect something, for example in this case what happens is when the IS shifts right, so what will happen is that our local interest rate will be higher than the global interest rate. That will lead to infinite capital inflows, and that is why eventually there is going to be appreciation. Exports will fall, right? And that is why the exchange rate is going to be appreciating, and that is what will bring back the interest rate, and the IS will shift back to its original position, right? So there will be appreciation. So exchange rate will definitely have some level of impact, but the thing is that exchange rate is changing endogenously. It is changing as a part of the model itself. Okay, RBI is not controlling the exchange rate in this case because it is floating. So that is why to say that it has a significant impact on determining the equilibrium level of income and employment, you should right off the bat know that this statement will be wrong. And otherwise you definitely should have to verify all of the other statements as well in a question like this. Okay, so let us move on. So the 24th one is saying that among the following statements, which one is correct? So the first one says that structural unemployment arises between two jobs. The first job which an individual has quit in order to find the second job. And the statement 2 is saying frictional unemployment arises due to mismatch of vacancies and skills of the individuals. Very, very, very clearly, both of these are interchanged. So neither S1 nor S2 is right. Very easy. Okay, so let us move on. Then the 25th question is saying that match the list 1 and 2. So just look at it. Fiscal revenue primary. List 2 is difference between government revenue expenditure and revenue receipts. Obviously, yeah, what is there to explain? Then fiscal, then this one says difference between government total expenditure and government total non-debt receipt minus interest payments also. So primary, difference between government total expenditure and just total non-debt receipts. So fiscal. So A is 3, uh, cross this. B is what? B is 1, so this is your answer. C is 2, so yes. Let us move on. Alright, so now read the 26th question, which says that a production function given at a time t is given by this, and where y is output, blah blah blah. So now comes the important part. Define per capita output as this: y by l, yt by lt, and capital output ratio as k, small k is k by y, kt by yt. And then obviously you can denote this, you know already if you have solved any question of growth model before, that dxt upon dt is just x dot. So the per capita output growth rate is what we have to find. Small y, the growth rate of g small y, not this. This is wrong. Not the growth of big Y or capital Y. So write down the production function that you had. It is yt. I'll just write y by the way. Y is equal to a k alpha L1 minus alpha. So we have to convert this to small y. We have already seen that y by L, y by L is equal to small y. So divide by L on both sides. You will get y is equal to a k alpha L1 minus alpha minus 1. So you will just get a k upon L alpha is small y. Okay, this is your first equation. Now a very important thing, a lot of students made this mistake and they still make this mistake to this date in the tests, in the mock tests, everywhere. They, because they have taken y by L as small y, they just take k by L as small k. That is where you are going to make a blunder that will ruin your entire question and waste a lot of your time. You are given that k by y is what is small k. So to convert this to small k, you'll write it down, k by y divided by L by y, and this to the power of alpha. So a k divided by, very interesting thing again, L by y would be what? If y by L is y, this is just 1 by y, right? So k upon 1 by y, and this entire thing was to the power of alpha, so just a ky alpha. Okay, so now if you just take y to the other side, and the final equation that you will be left with is this is divided by, so 1 minus alpha is equal to a k alpha. Alright, this is your final equation. So let us take this to a new page. So our equation was y 1 minus alpha is equal to a k alpha. Just take log now. Just do the exact same, just repeat the exact same process that we've repeated a lot of times, and you'll just get to the answer. A, so to a dot divided by a plus alpha k dot divided by k, just and what is x dot divided by x? What is this? It is just the growth rate of x, right? Gx. So you'll get gy is equal to, you take that to the other side, 1 upon 1 minus alpha ga plus alpha upon 1 minus alpha gk. Okay, this is your final answer. Match it with the options. You'll get this one. A is your answer. Okay, let us move on. Now read the 27th. Match list 1 and list 2 and choose the correct option. Very easy question. I mean, like, you should know all of this very, very clearly. RBI, you know, yeah, RBI is, even logically you can say that RBI is the oldest body out of all of these. So the 1934 Act of RBI is very famous. You know that the CRR was also established under the same act. So A is 2. So you can cut this off. Then I mean, you know all of these, but this one is very famous. This was very recently established, so this has to be the latest one in 2016. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. Obviously, the rest of them, you know, that are older bodies, right? So this is 2016. D is one. uh, D is one, so you can cut this one off as well. Then SEBI was very famous. SEBI is supposed to be very famous. It was established in even before that in 89 maybe as an executive body, and then later on under the SEBI Act. So 1992. So B is 3. B is suppose okay. D is your answer, right? So you can match that later as well. So let us read the 28th question now. It says that let x be a normal distribution y is equal to mod x. If the probability density function of y is fy, then for y greater than 0, find this. And you are given a bunch of options. Now, first observation that you have to make, very important, this is not, x is not just any ordinary normal distribution. It is a standard normal distribution. Clearly, you can see why. You should know why. So you can write that the probability distribution function for this is just going to be 1 upon root 2 pi multiplied by e x square by 2. Instead of making your life difficult by x minus mu by sigma and all, they have made your life way easier. Okay, and now let us see, you are given as y is equal to root x. Now you have to break down this random variable into different intervals based on the function that you're given. So write down that the probability distribution function of y is going to be equal to the probability distribution function of x when you have the value y plus probability distribution function of x when you take the value of minus y. Why? Because no matter what value you take, minus y or y, you land on the same value, which is y. That is why we have to add both of them up. Okay, the probability of this becomes double, right? Logically, think about it. Okay, minus 2 and minus 2 and 2 both are giving 2, so the probability of getting the number 2 doubles. So we'll have to add both of these up, right? So now you can just write down the formula directly, because you know that it is a standard normal distribution. Just first of all write down that it becomes 2fx 2fxy. So you'll be multiplying the whole thing with 2. Then you can just write down the formula minus y square by 2, because we are taking the value of y in place of x here, right? Earlier we had x, now we have replaced it with y. Okay, so the next thing is, okay, we have to multiply the whole thing with the root pi by 2, with the whole root pi by 2. So now just solve it. Pi gets cancelled, 2 gets multiplied, and it gets cancelled with the 2 that we had. All we are left with is e raised to the power minus y square by 2. So the option A is what matches to our answer. Let us move on. Alright guys, so look at the 29th question. It says that probability density is given here. First of all, identify the kind of distribution. Very easy, exponential, right? That is your first step. Lambda greater than 0 is a parameter if the observed sample values of x are given. Maximum likelihood estimator of lambda. So we are not given the true parameter, right? We are not given lambda, so we have to find the MLE. In this case it is lambda hat, which is equal to 1 upon x bar, right? You should memorize the maximum likelihood estimators of all of the important distribution types, and exponential and Poisson are both definitely some of the important distribution types. So just add these up, just find the mean, basically the sample mean. It'll be 12.5 divided by the number of values, which is 5, so you get 2.5. So the MLE is going to be 1 upon 2.5, so 2 by 5, so D. Okay, these are just some things that you should memorize. It is going to be very good for you. Otherwise, if you're sitting in the actual exam hall and there you are trying to find the maximum likelihood estimator of the kind of distribution from the PDF, that'll take you a long time. Okay, let us now move on. Okay, read the 30th question now. From a set comprising of 10 students, 4 girls, 6 boys, team of 5 students is to be formed. probability that a randomly selected team comprises of 2 girls and 3 boys with at least one of them to be B1 or B2 is equal to. Okay, slightly on the difficult end, but if you have done probability properly, you will find it very, very easy. Total probability, what is it? 10 total students, out of that 5 are to be selected. Then you find the total probability of selecting 2 girls and 3 boys. So that would be, out of 6 boys you are choosing 3, out of 4 girls you are choosing 2. This is the total probability of choosing 3 and 2. But now comes the tricky part. What happens here is that if you go case by case to choose at least B1 or B2, so you'll have to first make the case of, case 1 will be that B1 is selected and B2 is not selected. Then case 2 will be B2 is selected and B1 is not selected. Then finally case 3 is going to be that both of them are selected. Instead of doing all of that, what you should do is that you find the probability that neither of them, neither B1 nor B2 is selected. When you have this, you subtract this value from the total value where you do not care about B1 or B2, where you are just selecting 5 people from 10, 3 from boys and 2 from girls. Okay, so now let us try to find the probability that neither of them are selected. How do you do that? You just do that by just ignoring them. Just remove them from the conversation itself. You just have 4 boys, B1 and B2 are not there. 4C3 multiplied by 4C2. You take this value, you subtract it from this, that is your numerator. Let us try to find what the values are. I've already calculated it, but you should try to calculate that and check whether I'm right or not. So this 4C2 is 6, 6C3 is 20, this is 120, 4C3 is 4, so 4 into 6 is 24. You subtract, you are left with 96. 10C5 is 252. Your answer 96 by 252. Simplify it, 8 divided by 21. Your answer is C. Okay, so this is a question that you should be able to solve. Okay, the only confusing thing was that you would waste a lot of time if you went case by case. Otherwise, even if you do that, you would still get to the answer. Okay, I'm just trying to save you some time. Okay, so let us move on. Okay, so 31 says that suppose the utility function U represents a complete transitive and continuous preference relation over all bundles of n goods. Then select the choices below in which the function also represents the same preference relation. Okay, so our goal is basically that to find whether a function will represent the same preference relation is basically kind of like the monotonic transformation. Okay, so what this really means is that let us say that you have a function ux1 and ux2, and the relation between them is such that ux1 is strictly preferred over ux2. So now if you take a function of ux1 and ux2, something like f of ux1 and f of ux2, then the relation between these two should also be such that the first one is strictly preferred to the second one. That is all that it means. Okay, so now let us read the options. The first one says f is equal to u plus, so let us simplify this. This is just saying f is equal to u plus u cube. Okay, it is the whole cube of u. So if you just differentiate this, you will get f dash is equal to 1 plus u square. So it is obviously a strictly increasing function. So you can just say that it is also only dependent on u, and you can say that it is indeed a monotonic transformation and it will hold the same preference relation because it is only dependent on u. In the second one, it says g is equal to u plus summation xi. Okay, so this function is not only dependent on u, but it is also dependent on the individual values of xi. Okay, so this is where it is different from the utility function u. This is where it differs from it. Okay, so that is why this is not going to hold the same preference relation, because the values of x outside of the function of u can differ and they can change the value of g such that the preference relation can change. in this third option, h is equal to u. Again, this is only dependent on u. You can write it as h is equal to u to the power of 1 by n. You can differentiate that, and even that would be in terms of u, but there is no need to do that. You can clearly see that this function is only dependent on u, and the values of x will be inside u. So this is also true. And in m, it is again the x's are coming out of the function of u, so it is m is equal to, sorry, u plus x 1 square, or summation xi square whole root u plus this. So this can again differ, and this is not inside of the utility function u. That is why you will say that this will also not hold true. The preference relation might be broken in this one as well. So A and C are your right options. Alright, now look at the 32nd question, which is a very easy question. 2 agent 2 good economy with an aggregate endowment of 30 units of x and 10 of y. This is your utility function for both of the consumers. It is a max function. Then select the choices which is Pareto optimal for this economy. Okay, so you have to find the Pareto optimal allocations out of these 4 options. Let us go one by one. So just write down the utility functions for both of them: max of x1 y1 and max function of x2 y2, right? So now we just have to substitute the values one by one and check for it. So the first one says that it is 5 5, so basically u1 is 5 and u2 is 25. Okay, is that Pareto optimal? What is the definition of Pareto optimality, by the way? It is just that you cannot make the other consumer, you cannot make one consumer better off without making the other one worse off, right? So this is essentially saying that if this is 25 and this is 5, they are trying to say that we cannot make anyone better off without making the other one worse off. Is that true in this case? No, that is absolutely false. Why? Look at this. This guy has 25 of x, 5 of y. This guy has 5 of x and 5 of y, right? If I transfer 5x from the first consumer to the second guy, the second guy's utility will become 25 plus 5, 30, and the first guy's utility will still remain 5 even if this becomes 0, because it is a max function. 5 5 and max is still 5 of 0 5, right? 0 5 and max is still 5. That is why I can clearly make one customer, and in fact I can make both of them better. I'll just transfer 5y to him and 5x to him. So this guy will have 10, this guy will have 30 as their respective utilities. So this is clearly very wrong. Similarly this is saying max of 10 and 10 and max of 20 and 0. Obviously again this is not Pareto optimal. If I transfer x to this guy's utility will become 30 and this guy's utility will still be 10. Again I'm making one guy better off without making the other one worse off. This is Pareto optimal. Why? Because u1 is 30, u2 is 10. I cannot move any good y or x. If I do that, one guy's utility will be affected negatively. Similarly, the D option as well, 10 and 30. If I move y from 1 to 2, his utility will fall and 2's will obviously remain unaffected, and I cannot move x from 2 to 1 either. So that is C and D are your right options. Very easy question. Let us move on. Okay, so now look at the 33rd. It says that it is a 3-player game. Player 1 can choose up or down. 2 can choose left or right. Player 3 can choose table 1 or table 2 as strategies. Okay, that is very interesting. So player 3 can only go either table 1 or table 2. If he is going table 1 in this cell, okay, then he'll choose 5. But if he prefers this table, then he'll go 4. Obviously 5 is more than 4, so he'll go 5 in this case, right? So similarly, the last element is being compared with the last element of the same cell in the other table, 1 with 0. Okay, so that is how it is supposed to work. The rest of it is obviously the same, so you know that already. Now we'll take player 3 goes table 1 and player 2 goes left. Then will player 1 go up or will he go down? He'll go up, right? So similarly now player 2 is going right, so player 1 will go down. Okay, so now similarly player 1 is going up, 2 will go left or right? 2 will go left. 2 is more than 1. So similarly now player 1 and player 2 are going so now finally when it comes down to player 3, will he go uh, table 1 or table 2? He'll go table 1, right? So this is your first Nash equilibrium, which is up left and table 1 right here. Then similarly when we talk about table 2, when player 3 is going table 2 and player 2 is going left, player 1 goes down. Then player 2 is going right, player 1 goes up. Okay, now player 1 is going up, player 2 will go right. Similarly when we talk about player 3, will he go table 1 or table 2? 7, right? 7 is more than 3, he'll go here. So this is your second Nash equilibrium. It is right, up and table 2. Up, right and table 2. Okay, you can check for these as well. Down, right and table 1. No, this was not Nash equilibria. You can see that as well clearly. So if this guy goes down, this is more than 4, so obviously. So you can check that for yourself. A and D are your answers. Okay, let us move on. So now check out the 34th. It is basically a question on double limits or two variables in the limits, and I have explained this in like much detail in the 2024 paper. Okay, so there was a very good question on it. I have explained how you can take different paths, so you should check that out as well if you haven't already. But here I'm just going to be taking a shorter route. First of all, the routes that we can take here, the paths basically, the paths that we can take here is you can try out at x is equal to y. Okay, so you will get something like x square minus x cube upon 2x square. So that won't work out, that won't give anything to you. You'll just get finally at xy tends to 0 0, you'll just get 0. Okay, so that is basically one limit that you can find. Now we have to disprove this limit. We have to find any value where this is not equal to 0. So try at y is equal to 0. Try at y is equal to 0. That is a path that you can take. Basically the x-axis. X square upon x square 1 not equal to 0. So you have found a path where it is not equal to 0. So f is not continuous at 0 0. It's indeed true. Now just I'll take a new page for it. It is just saying that the partial derivative of x is equal to 0. So how do you find that? What was the formula? I told you in the 24 paper. It is very easy. You should remember this properly. Okay. This is not to be taken lightly. It is an important topic. It has been asked about 2 to 3 times. Okay. So you have this. Okay, this is your. So just replace the values. H square upon h square minus 0 0. So this is 0 and this is h. 1 upon h tends to 0. So this is a divergent, you can write, function. So to say that it is equal to 0 is absolutely wrong. And if you read the D option carefully, it says that the partial derivative does not exist, and it indeed does not exist. Now let us check for the partial derivative of y. Okay, so just use the formula again. Okay, so it will be minus h cube upon h square, right, upon minus 0 upon h, right. I'll take this to a new page again, not enough space. So this is minus h upon h, which is indeed minus 1. So yes, this one is correct. So your right options are A, C and D. Let us move on. Okay, so the 35th question says that for alpha, beta belongs to R. Alpha is not equal to beta if minus 2 and 5 are the eigenvalues of the matrix M, and X is an eigenvector of M associated to minus 2, the, the eigenvalue of minus 2, then which of the following are true? So start solving. We'll take it step by step. So I'll just take it from a new page. M is equal to, use the two properties, that sum of eigenvalues is equal to the trace of the matrix M. The second one is that the product of EVs or eigenvalues is equal to the determinant. Just use these two. Minus alpha plus beta is equal to minus 2 plus 5. 1 plus beta is equal to 3. Beta is equal to 2. Okay, now just form the second equation using the determinant. Alpha plus beta into 1 minus alpha minus beta into 1 plus beta. Calculate it. This is equal to the product, so minus 2 into 5 or minus 10. So what you'll be left with finally is that you'll get an equation only in terms of alpha, because beta you already have as 2. So finally you'll have alpha is equal to minus 3. Calculate this and make sure that I did not make a mistake. Okay, now what we'll do is that we'll just check all of the options one by one. First one says this, so to do that we'll just verify if the eigenvector with the eigenvalue of minus 2. How do you do that? You take your matrix and you subtract the multiple of your eigenvalue and the identity matrix. So minus 1, this was your matrix initially. Now subtract lambda I from this. So lambda is what? Minus 2. Okay, so you'll just be adding 2i. 6 5 4 1. So 6 3 2 1. 6 3 2 1, because what you did was that 2 into 1 0 0 1, so you just got 2 0 0 1 and you added it to M. So from this obviously you know that this multiplied by x is equal to 0. So 6x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 0 and 2x1 plus x2 is equal to 0. If you just take out common 3 out of this, and you will be left with this exact same equation. So yes, the first option is actually right. Okay, that is what we found out as well. So beta minus alpha is equal to 5. Beta was what? 2 minus minus 3. Yes, this is also correct. Alpha square, alpha is minus 3. So 9 minus 4 5. Yes, this is also correct. X plus 3x2. X plus 3x2. No, this is not what we found. So this is wrong. Okay, so A, B and C are the right options. So basically it was an easy question. All you had to do was just use the properties of the eigenvalues first of all to get to the matrix M, and then you just had to use the normal equation that we use for the eigenvalues, which is mx is equal to lambda x. So mx minus lambda x is equal to 0. So you take out x common, m minus lambda I is equal to 0, and lambda is nothing but your eigenvalue, right? So from that you got the equation that the question was asking for. Let us move on. Then look at the 36th. Which of the following statements are correct in context of absolute income hypothesis? I'll not spend a lot of time teaching all of this right now, okay? It is all included in the notes, and I'll make a separate lecture if required, but I don't want to make the video very long. The MPC is constant. Yes, it is. I'll just write down the equation. This is your equation. So this is a very important property. Obviously your B is going to be a constant value, and as income increases, APC tends to approach the MPC. Yes, APC increases as income increases. Absolutely wrong. As you can just use logic to understand that as well, that when your income is increasing, your average propensity to consume is going to be falling. Obviously current savings and savings has no bearing on future consumption. Yes, we are not talking about the permanent income hypothesis, we are talking about the absolute income hypothesis. So this is also true. Let us move on. So take a look at the 37th question. This is actually a question that was dropped from the paper and marks were given to all of these options. Okay. And now I'm not going to be solving this question in full length because this is not a very standard question as well. But what I will do is give you a hint as to how you can think about it. GDP MP. Okay, GDP MP is this. This one is right. Okay, so you know that when you are writing c plus I plus g plus x minus m and you write y as this is just GDP MP. Okay, now if you take this to be GDP MP, from that, using this information, you can go to the other things that have been asked. For example, if you have to go to NNPFC, okay, you know that from gross to what do you have to do to go from gross to net, you know what you have to do to go from domestic to national and from market prices to factory cost, right? You are given all of that, so just add and subtract that from this equation, and whatever you get, if that matches this, then that will be right. The answer here was supposed to be, I think, B only, but you can cross verify that, and this is not a very difficult question. Just start from this value being GDP-MP. Okay, that is all you need to know, right? So let us move on. Now the 38th one says that which of the following major developments have been undertaken after the initiation of structural reforms in 91 of the Indian economy? General deregulation of interest rates and a greater role for market forces in determination of both interest and exchange rate. Absolutely correct. You already know that market forces have played a bigger role after the liberalization, privatization, and globalization. The phase out of ad hoc treasury bill, which puts a check on the automatic monetization of fiscal deficit. Yes, this has been put in check. That previously the monetization of fiscal deficit was being misused to some extent. Okay, so that is why in 1997 this was abolished, and that put a check on the automatic monetization of the fiscal deficit. Okay, then an exchange rate anchor under a proportional reserve system. No, this is false. India uses the managed floating rate system, you already know. Then the a commitment of the FRBM, which, okay, this is the one of the most important and famous things under the Indian economy post 91 reforms that you should know about, which was put in place in the year of 2003, and the fiscal deficit was aimed to be put under 3% of GDP. Okay, that was the goal back then. I don't think that they will ask you the fiscal deficit that is like being targeted nowadays, but it is about 4 to 4.5% today. Okay, that is the actual projected as well, and that is what the government aims to keep it at as well. All right, so let us move on. Okay, so read the 39th question. It says that which of the following functions qualify to be a cumulative density function of a random variable x, and you are given with four options. So first of all, what is a CDF? What function would qualify to be a cumulative density function? So actually the definition varies. All right, so some of the books are saying that a CDF is just any function whose total probability is going to be over its entire interval is equal to 1. That is the only definition that they are giving. But other books are saying that apart from this condition, another condition that should be true is that the first value on the first value of the interval, the value of this probability function should be equal to 0. Okay, so JAM actually has gone with the second definition, the stricter definition of CDF, that the first value is equal to 0 and the total probability over its entire interval is equal to 1. So now that is what we have to prove in each of these options. That is why this question caused a lot of confusion among many students. Okay, they were confused as to why they got an option wrong. Now let us test one by one. 1 minus e to the power of minus x, and x belongs to 0 to infinity. So check it at 0 first of all. You'll get 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. At infinity, you'll get 1 minus e to the power minus infinity is 0. You should know that is equal to 1. So yes, absolutely it qualifies for a CDF because at the first value at 0 it is 0, and at infinity or the last value it is 1. Okay, or over the entire interval basically. Now second one is 1 plus e to the power of minus x to the power of minus 1. So at minus infinity it would be 1 upon 1 plus e to the power of infinity basically, because minus minus will turn into positive. So this is 0, right? This is 0. And when it is infinity it will be 1 upon 1 sorry, wait, what am I writing? 1 upon 1 plus e to the power of minus infinity. That will be just 1. So again, this is also absolutely true. Then let's take it to a new page. Third function says 1 minus log x upon x, and we are trying to find it from e to infinity. This time the interval is starting at e. X belongs to e till infinity. Okay, so tested at e, you'll get 1 minus 1 upon e, that is greater than 0. It is not equal to 0. All right, so that is why at the probability at the very first point of the interval itself is not 0. Okay, and at infinity it will become even if it does become 0, even then we will not call it a CDF, a valid CDF, because at the first point it is greater than 0. So this is not a valid CDF. And when coming to the final option, which is D, you have, what do you have? 1 minus 1 upon log x. Again, interval is e to infinity. Check it at e, you'll get 1 upon 1 by, that will become 1, it equal to 0. Yes, this is absolutely right. Then at infinity you'll get 1 upon 1 by infinity. So 1 minus 1 by infinity, sorry. So that gives you 1. D is absolutely correct. Okay, so this is what caused the confusion. Option C. Most of the students ticked it right because at infinity it was giving the value of 1. So over the entire interval, because log x, because if you use asymptotic hierarchy, log x is like, we write x is greater than log x, right? So that is why if you put infinity in both of these, it x will become much higher than that. So this thing will become 0, right? So that is why over the entire interval it will be 1. So that is why A, B and D are your right answer. Let us move on. Now look at the question number 40. It says that let the joint probability density function of random variables x and y be this. Okay, let the marginal density of x and y be fxx and fyy respectively. Which of the following are correct? You have to find first of all marginal densities of both x and y, and then you have to find the mean and variance. So let's take this to a new page and let's start writing. If the joint probability distribution looks like fxy is equal to 1 for x, when x is between 0 and 1, and another thing that is given is y is between, okay, that is very interesting, that y is between x and x plus 1, and it is just 0 otherwise. Okay, so how do you find the marginal density function? First of all, just write down the formula. Fxx is equal to, you integrate over the interval of whatever y is given, because we are taking x to be constant here. Okay, x is to be constant, so the fxy is nothing but 1 here. So that is why 1 dy, and the interval is to be used that whatever is given for y. So this will be equal to y from x to x plus 1. So x plus 1 minus x is equal to 1. Okay, and so basically you can just write the MDF as 1 for the interval of 0 to 1 for x, and it will be 0 otherwise, right? So if you look at the options, this is wrong, this is right. So but still we are going to still check for y regardless, so that you are not confused about it. Okay, how do you check for y? Again, you use this exact same process. You just write integration of fxy dx over the interval of y. Now this is where the tricky part is. When you are just given this, how do you find the interval of x in the middle? Do you just integrate from 0 to 1? Is that what you do? No, because you want to find it in relation to y, right? So we have to do something to this bracket so as to keep x in the middle, right? So if we just write x in the middle, what happens here? Let us see. We have y is okay. So y is greater than x. First of all, y is greater than x, right? So y is greater than x. Here we are going to have y because y is greater than x. So secondly, we have that x plus 1 is greater than y. If x plus 1 is greater than y, this means x is greater than y minus 1. Okay, so here you will get y minus 1. And the second interval that you have to consider is x is between 0 and 1. Okay, so this is why, this is where we are going to be breaking our integration into two different cases. Okay, and I'll explain it to you on the way itself. So how do you get those cases? How do you get those intervals? You write, so first of all you compare y with 0 and 1. So the thing is that y can never be equal to 0. Why? Because x is never equal to 0. X is always greater than 0. Always. And y is always greater than x. So y can never be 0. The minimum value it can take is x. So the first interval, so you compare both y with 0 and 1 and you compare y minus 1 with 0 and 1. So this gives you that y can be between 1 and 2 as well. Okay, the maximum value can y can take is that y can approach 2. It can never be 2, but it can approach 2. So now let us try and write down the cases. Okay, so case 1 is when y is between 0 and 1. This will give you that you integrate over the interval of 0 to y. Alright, and your second case is going to be that you take y to be, or you just basically take this part. So you can write it as the so you can write it as y is between 1 and 2. So this will give you 1 dx. You are now integrating from y to 2. Okay, so we have broken this into two intervals from 0 to y and from y all the way to 2. Because y is not just less than 1, it is also less than 2. Alright, so now let's try and understand this, that why we took 0 to y and why we took y to 2. Okay, 0 to y, because look at these two intervals. Alright, you will say that x is greater than y minus 1, but x is also greater than 0. Alright, if y minus 1 is greater than 0, okay, if y minus 1, because y minus 1 can never be 0, right? That is something that we have already established. If it is in the negatives, then we do not care about that value. What we care most about is that x is between 0 to 1. That is our first priority right here, because even if y is, let us say that y on this side is minus 0.5. Okay, even then you do not care about it, because there is another restraint saying that x is between 0 and 1. Right, and if y is equal to, let us say, something like 0.5, then we have already taken 0 to y, right? That is the reason that we have taken y to be the upper interval, because it can be a value between 0 and 1 also. If y is something like 0.5, that is why there is the upper bound as 0.5. We do not want to miss any value after 0. That is why 0 is the lower bound here. And when we take the second case, the case 2, you say that y is between 1 and 2. Why? Because now if you look at this, x is greater than y minus 1. So this is nothing but y minus 1, right? You can also rewrite this. I've just written it for the sake of simplicity. You can write this as y minus 1 and 1 also. It will mean the same thing. It will give you the same solution as well. So what this means now is that x is greater than y minus 1. If y minus 1 looks like 0.5, okay, x is greater than that and it is less than y. So if x is between 0.5 and 1.5 now, because y will be 1.5. Okay, so if x is less than 1.5, we do not care about any value after 1, because it has an upper bound as 1. This is our primary restraint. Okay, so if y is going anywhere above 1, we do not care about that. What we care about is that the highest value has to be 1. That is why when we were taking this as y, only then we took this as 2, right? When we are taking the lower bound to be y minus 1, then the maximum bound, the maximum value that x can take is going to be 1. Okay, the only reason to write 2 here is because y y can take up to that value, not x. Okay, so that is something that you should be very 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 clear of. Okay, so basically it was nothing, just once if you just try to understand the logic, this will come very very naturally to you. All right, so now just try to find out the values for this. This is equal to y and this is equal to 2 minus y. Okay, so now you can write down the complete mdf of y as well, which is equal to, we'll break it into three intervals. So this is going to be from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, and otherwise this is just 0, this is y, this is 2 minus y. Okay, so you just have to so you can see that this matches it, and basically you just have to understand the logic behind it. All right, so now using these values themselves, we are going to find ey and variance of y. But before that, look at this. For option C, you can clearly see that there is only one interval where x is going to make sense from 0 to 1. That is clearly a uniform distribution. So you can just say that you can just use the formula for uniform mean and variance. You'll find that x is equal to the ex is 1 by 2, and variance is, use the formula for variance, b minus a whole square upon 12. So that will be 1 by 12. So that is also right. Okay, but y is not a uniform distribution. It is divided into multiple intervals, as we have just found. So we are going to be trying to use the traditional method to find both ey and variance of y. What is the formula for ey? For any ex, the formula is just equal to, you multiply x with the mdf of x, and then you multiply it with dx, and you try to find the integral of that, right? So here it is just going to be y into, the first interval was 0 to 1, it is just y dy, and the second interval was from 1 to 2, and the function, sorry, you first multiply y, then 2 minus y was the function, and dy. So the answer is, this value is going to look like 1 by 3, and the second value is going to look like 2 by 3. So the answer is going to be 1. You should please cross verify this. You should calculate for yourself. Okay, the variance of y, then write, what is this? The formula is just ey square minus ey whole square, right? That is the formula. So we already have ey whole square, so just find ey square. So to do that, you'll have to use y square instead of y. So just the same formula plus y square 2 minus y dy. Solve this, and after solving this, the answer that you should get is 7 by 6. So the variance of y will look like 7 by 6 minus 1, which is 1 by 6. Okay, so your variance is 1 by 6 and your mean is 1. Now check the options. Yes and yes. So the B, C and D are your right options. So let us move on to section C now, and let us solve its first question, which is the 41st question, which says that x is a uniformly distributed random variable and so is z. They are independent, so highlight independent. Okay, and if y is this and w is this, find the covariance of y and w. So just write it down. What is the formula? Covariance of y with w. Expand it first of all. Y is x plus z, and the covariance of this with x minus z. Expand it. How do you do that? X with x plus covariance of z with x minus the covariance of x with z minus the covariance of z with z. Simple. And what is the covariance of a random variable with itself? It is just the variance of it. This part is 0 because of the highlighted part that we have kept before, and this will just be variance of x minus, variance of x minus variance of z, right? That is all that we have to find. So what is the variance of x? You know that it is uniformly distributed, b minus a whole square divided by 12 20 minus 8 whole square divided by 12. It is 12 square by 12. It is 12. Similarly, do the same for z. It will be 6 minus 0, 6 square upon 12. So 36 upon 12, it will be 3. So the difference will be 12 minus 3 is equal to 9, which is your final answer. Very simple question. Let us move on. Okay, read the 42nd now. Y is a normal distribution, so it's W. X is Bernoulli with probability 0.9 where X is 1 and probability 0.1 when X is 0. Okay, so the rate of success is 0.9 or 90%. S is given as this and you have to find the expectation of S. Now, the first thing is that you should always remember is do not be lazy in these types of questions. Write down all of the given data that you already have, and from that you have to move forward. If you just become overconfident and think that you are very smart, so what the mistake that you will make is that you will just write ES and you will start solving here. You will just take E of xy plus this blah blah blah, and you may just assume x and y and w as independent, and you will make a mistake somewhere along that route. Okay, that is a very long process, and I'm not even sure if that will be right because I haven't solved and checked. Okay, so do not be in a hurry in the actual exam. Take your time. You have plenty of time to solve the paper. Okay, write down the data that you have. Y is normally distributed when mean as 3 and 1 is your variance, right? So similarly W is 1 and 2. Now comes the tricky part. When x is equal to 1, alright, the probability of this is 0.9. X is equal to 0, probability of this is 0.1. Now understand what will happen when x is 0 and 1. When x is 1, S will be y, right? So with the probability of 90%, there is a 90% chance that S is just equal to y. Because x is equal to 1, this will become 0. Similarly, when x is equal to 0, S will be equal to W, right? That is how interesting this question is, and instead of just expanding this and solving, that is where you would have made the mistake. That is why writing down the data first of all is key. Okay, so this is what you have. Now just to find the expectation of x, you just need to find the expectation of y with the probability of 0.9 with the probability of success plus the expectation of w with the probability of 0.1. all right, that is all that you need to find. So the expectation of y is what? 3 multiplied by 9 by 10 plus the probability of w is 1 multiplied by 1 by 10. This is 2.7 plus 0. This will be 2.8. This is again a very easy question. If x denotes the sum of numbers appearing on a throw of two fair 6-faced dice, then the probability of this. So just write down what you already know. You have to find the probability of 8 and the probability of 9, right? So what will this be? The total outcomes, you know, there are two dice. So 1 by 6 into 1 by 6, 1 by 36. Now write down the favorable outcome for probability of 8. When will you have 8 as a sum of two numbers on the dice? When you know that the numbers are from 1 to 6. It starts with 2 6, 3 5, 4 4, 5 3 and 6 2. These are the only options. Count the number of outcomes. 1 2 3 4 5. 5. What about 9? 3 6, 4 5, 5 4, 6 3, 4. So your probability that you wanted was 5 plus 4 upon 36, which is 9 by 36, which is 1 by 4, or 0.25. Okay, very easy. Let us move on. Now look at the 44th question. This is just mostly a calculation based question, not a lot of conceptual knowledge that is required, but yes, some formulae definitely without which you cannot solve it. So they have given you the population of 2 years and the GDP, the complete GDP of 2 years. They are asking you to find the compounded annual growth rate of per capita GDP, not just GDP. Okay, so first of all, find out the per capita GDP for 2010. Per capita GDP, it is equal to 25,000 upon 20,000. The GDP divided by the population, right? Similarly, do for 2020, it is 40,000 divided by 25,000. It is equal to 1.6. Now just use the formula CAGR, or the compound annual growth rate, is equal to 1.6 final value divided by the initial value to the power of 1 by n, where n is the number of years. So your answer would look like 1.28 to the power of 1 by 10, which is, use your calculators, you'll be given a scientific calculator in the exam. Okay, so now I'll take this to, or I'll just do it here. So 1.0249, and now you subtract 1, because you subtract the base now, which is supposed to be 100%. So now you'll be just left with 0.249 multiplied by 100 to convert it into percentage, 2.49%. Okay, that is all that you needed to find out. Let us move on. Okay, so the 45th one says that consider a Keynesian cross model with these features, and these are the values. You can read it. B is given, T is given, value of Keynesian multiplier is. You just have to do the calculation part. You already know the formula of multiplier is 1 minus B multiplied by 1 minus T is equal to, so 1 minus B is 0.7 into 1 minus 0.2. So 1 upon 1 minus 0.7 multiplied by 0.8, 1 upon 0.44. So just calculate this, you'll get end up with 2.27. Easy. Okay, let us move on. Okay, so the 46th question, let this denote the greatest integer function that is less than equal to t. Number of points of discontinuity of the function fx for x belongs to 0 to 4 in a closed bracket in integer. So now what all do you need to actually solve this question? First of all, you should know something about the greatest integer function, that it is discontinuous at every integer. Okay, if you have seen the graph of it, it looks something like this. It starts with 0. Okay, it reaches here, then it goes like this. It goes here. Okay, then it is continuous till this, and then it is again discontinuous, right? So it is basically a step function, right? So that is why at every integer value, the whatever the function of fx is, that is going to be discontinuous. Now we have to find at how many points is this value, the value inside the bracket, is going to be equal to an integer. So for that, the first thing that we are going to do is that we are going to find the minimum and maximum value of the value inside of this bracket. So let us write that gx is actually the value inside of the bracket, x square minus 3x plus 2. Okay, and if you just take the bracket, this becomes f of x, right? Okay, so to find out how many integer values this function gx is going to take, we need the minimum and maximum value of this. How do you find that? You know, just by looking at x square, these are some basic intuitions here that you should know, that if you just differentiate this, g dash is equal to 2x minus 3 is equal to 0, x is equal to 3 by 2 is equal to 1.5. Now x is equal to 1.5. Is this value going to give you the maxima or minima of this? Instead of trying to find out the double derivative, which you can do very easily, just do g dash dash is equal to 2, so then that is greater than 0, so that is the minimum. That is one thing that you can do. Otherwise, just looking at x square, you should know that it is a graph opening like this. So the value at the bottom is going to be the vertex, so it is going to give a minima value, right? So that is why the thing is that g of 1.5 is the minimum of this function. 2.25 minus 4.5 plus 2, so minus 0.25. So that is why we start with 0. The minimum integer that this value is going to take is 0. Now what about maxima? Just try at these 2 points. So at g is equal to 0, you are going to get 2. At g is equal to 4, you are going to get 16 minus 12 plus 2 is equal to 6. Okay, let's take a new page. So we know that the values that gx can take, the integer values that gx can take is 0, 1, 2, 3 up till 6. These are 7 values. Now we need to find out that how many times this function is going to give these integer values. All right, so that is what we have to solve step by step. Now we start with, just take the just write down the equation first of all. Gx is equal to x square minus 3x plus 2. So just do a case by case. When is gx equal to 0? We'll start from 0 and we'll go all the way up to 6. So this is equal to 0 when x square minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0, which means that when x is equal to 1 and 2. Okay, you have to solve. This is a very simple equation. Just write down x square minus x minus 2x minus 2 is equal to 0 and plus 2, and this, just simplify this, you'll get this. Okay, I'm leaving the calculation part to you. That is very basic, but please do cross verify, keep writing down along with me. The second case is gx is equal to 1. Okay, even at gx is equal to 1, there will be a point of discontinuity. So x square minus 3x plus 2 is equal to is equal to 1. X square plus minus 3x plus 1 is equal to 0. Again, you have to find out at how many values this is going to be true. Even if you do not get an actual integer for x, we are not trying to find an integer value for x. We are trying to find out at how many possible values this is going to be true. Okay, even if you are getting, because right here I think that the value that you will get is x will be equal to 3 plus minus root 5 upon 2. So that we will count that as 2 points. That is 2 points of discontinuity. Okay, so again, x is equal to 3 plus minus root 5 upon 2. Okay, and that is inside of the range. If you even take that as 2, that is 5 or 2.5, right? So that is inside of the range for x is 0 to 4, right? 0 to 4, yes. So all you have to check is that whether x is inside of the range and gx is equal to an integer. So let us move on to, now let us check at gx is equal to 2. Okay, so this means that x square minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 2. X square minus 3x plus is equal to just is equal to 0. So this will be true. This will be true for again two values, which is x is 0 and 3. Alright, gx is equal to 3. X square minus 3 x minus 1 is equal to 0 is what you will get, and you are going to get, I believe, only one value for this. I think so. So please cross verify that. You'll get something like 3.3, which is also in the range. Similarly, solve for gx is equal to 4. You'll get x square minus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. Again, you will get x is equal to 3 plus root 17 plus by 2. Then gx is equal to 5. X square minus 3x minus 3 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 3 plus root 21 by 2. Then finally gx is equal to 6 will fetch you x square minus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. X is equal to 4. Okay, so now let us just count these values. 1, 2. Now these are two values, do not forget, plus and minus. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Okay, so we have counted a total of 10 values. So that is all that you had to do here. It is kind of long, but not that long. So I know that the calculation can be tricky. So that is why you have to keep that in mind. Okay, so let us move on. Now look at the 47th question again, a very very easy question. All you have to do is, let us just read it. E is the area of region bounded by these two curves, okay? And you have to just find 30 multiplied by that area. So let us write down the curves first of all. Y is equal to x square and y is root x. So first of all, let us just find out the points where these two curves are intersecting each other. X square is equal to 8 root x. If you square both of these up, you will get 8 4 is equal to 64x. X cube is equal to 64, x is equal to 4. and you are given in the question that x is greater to or equal to 0. So that is why when we use the integration, we are going to start from 0. Okay, so now let us try to find out to integrate. Let us say that you know that the graph of y is equal to x square will look like this, and you do not know which of these curves will be up, or basically which term of integration should come before. Because the thing is that let us say that this is just a straight line, okay, this one. So now you are going to be taking this value first when you are integrating, then you will subtract this value from this value. So to find the region, this to find this region, you will basically subtract the area below this curve from the area below this curve to just find this, right? That makes sense, right? So that is why to find that out, if you do not know how to do that, just y is equal to x square and y is equal to 8 root x. Put x as 1 in both of these equations. So y is equal to 1 and y is equal to 8, right? Because putting the same value of x at the same value of x, one curve of y is higher. That is why that is going to come before. So y is 8 root x will come before, because we are at very small values, right? You can even try for 4 if you don't want to try for just 1. So at 4, y is equal to 16 and 8 into 2. So yes, that is obviously the point of intersection only. So till then I know that after that some of you might comment that no sir, at 1000 y is equal to x square is a much bigger value. That is true. We only care about 0 to 4. So now write down that we are just integrating from 0 to 4, 8 root x dx minus the integral of x square dx from 0 to 4. Just solve it. The final answer that you will be left with is 64 by 3, and that is the value of e. Now you have to just find 30e multiplied by 30, that is 640. Very easy question. Okay, so let us move on. So read the 48th question. Again a super easy question. Y is just KL under root. You are given with the wage rate and the rental rate of capital. So all you need to find is marginal cost. So cost you know is WL plus RK. We will just differentiate with that with respect to Y to find MC. So let's start. We know that MRTS is equal to W by R. So just find MPL and MPK. MPL upon MPK in this case is, when you solve it, it will look like K by L, which is equal to W by R, which is equal to 4 1. So K is equal to L. So Y is equal to under root KL is equal to just K square or L square is equal to K. That means K is equal to L is equal to Y. Now you can just write that cost is equal to 4, W is 4, right? Yes. 4y plus 4y is equal to 8y. Now differentiate 8y. dc by dy is equal to 8. Your MC is 8. Let us move on. Then the 49th one says that let y hat is equal to 5.5 plus 3.2x be an estimated regression equation using a large sample. 95% confidence interval of the coefficient of x is this, and r square is equal to 0.26. Standard error of the estimated coefficient. Alright, so there is a direct formula for this as well. First of all, just the confidence interval is equal to beta hat for large samples. By the way, for large samples there are just some regression formulae that you, if you have a background, you'll already know, but if you do not, that you can memorize to just easily solve some of the questions, and most of them you can just pick up from PYQs, right? So that is also a good idea to go about it. So confidence interval is equal to beta hat plus minus the, you are given a 95% of CI, so 1.96 is the value for that, multiplied by standard error, right? So when you actually solve for this, the difference in here becomes beta hat minus plus 1.96 minus beta hat minus 1.96, right? So here beta hat will get cancelled, minus minus becomes plus, this becomes 2 into 1.96. That becomes the width of the interval. Okay, so that is why here you will write 2 multiplied by 1.96 multiplied by standard error, and you know what this is equal to? This is equal to, as we said, the width of the confidence interval, 6.14 minus 0.26. So this will become, the standard error is equal to, just do the calculation, 5.88 upon 2 into 1.96. This is going to look something like 1.5 if I'm not wrong. Okay, so do check that if the calculation part is right. Okay, so let us move on. So the 50th question says that let pi be the proportion of a population vaccinated against a disease, and estimate pi, let us write down the data. Pi hat is equal to 0.64, is found using a sample of 100 individuals, n is equal to 100 from the population. The Z test statistic for the, they have mentioned it directly to you. The null hypothesis H naught says that pi is equal to 0.58 is. So there is a direct formula when you are trying to use the Z statistic for the proportion test, which says that Z is equal to pi hat minus pi naught divided by under root pi naught multiplied by 1 minus pi naught upon n. Okay, so now what you can just do is that plug in the values, 0.64. So the thing is that I have said this before as well, that unless you have a background in sampling and regression and all that, because this is actually explicitly mentioned inside of the syllabus, if you read it carefully under sampling and the hypothesis testing part, you will see that the proportion tests and the tests comparing the different parameters and all that is mentioned in the syllabus, right? So that is why this takes a lot of time to grab properly, to understand it, right? That is why what a lot of students do, that unless they have a background in it, they just skip this and they would rather devote that time to the subjects that they already have a background in, like micro and macro. Okay, so I also feel like that is the smarter thing to do. Unless you have some kind of a background in this and you are short on time, then what you should do is that you can just like complete the theory portions of these parts and rather devote your time to stuff that you already know, right? So that you do not make a mistake in those parts, because the level or the difficulty of these portions is very difficult to predict in the actual test. So just write down the values here, 0.42 divided by 100. So finally what you will be left with is, after a bunch of calculation, 0.06 divided by 0.0494, which is approximately equal to 1.21. Okay, so that is your answer up to 2 decimal places. Let us move on. Okay, now the 51st one says that an industry has 3 firms in Kurno competition. They have no fixed cost. Their constant marginal costs are given. Okay, these are all marginal costs. So they face an industry inverse demand function is this. PB and Q is the industry output, sum of outputs. QC is the industry output under Cournot-Nash equilibrium. Then you have to find the inverse of QC. Okay, so very easy. All you have to do, first of all, just write down the inverse demand function. P is equal to 1 minus Q. Now just write down the formula for QC or quantity under the Cournot-Nash. You will see that it is Na minus C divided by N B into N plus 1. Okay, now what are these values? You just know A is this value. For this is for an inverse demand function in the form of A minus BQ. Now you'll understand better. A is this, B is this, N is the number of firms. What is C? C is the summation of all marginal costs. That is why we have multiplied N with A as well. That is the only reason here. So just plug in the values. QC is equal to 3 multiplied by 1 minus C. When you add these up, you will get 1. So minus 1 divided by B is also 1. N plus 1, 3 plus 1. So this is 2 by 4, 1 by 2. So now just take the inverse of that. QC inverse is just 2, which is your answer. Very easy. Let us move on. Okay, so read the 52nd one now. The consumer has this utility function. She has some positive income and faces positive prices. Suppose P2 is already given as 1, so that is very good. There exists a lowest price P1 dash such that if P1 is greater than P1 dash or P1 bar, then the utility maximizing choice is only to buy good 2. Okay, then what is that? Minimum price. What is the lowest price above which you will only purchase good 2? What is the lowest price for good 1? And how do you find that? So let's say that your MRS is less than the price ratio. Okay, this would mean that this price is too high. The price of good 1 is too high, which is why the consumer will only purchase good 2. As you can see, the max function is also a part of this. So a corner solution is what we work with in such cases. Okay, so first of all, let us try to make cases, because that is what we do in the situation of a max function or a substitute function, right? So let us make cases. The first case is when x1 is greater than x2. So what happens is that clearly you will consume 0.5 x1 plus x2. So in this case the MRS is equal to 0.5 upon 1, so 0.5. Similarly, case 2, x1 is less than x2. So you will get 0.5 x2 plus x1. So MRS is equal to 2. Okay, so just we do not even have to work after this. Okay, we don't have to do any working beyond this, because the reason is that we are saying that what is the minimum price where consumer will only buy good 2. That is when any case your price ratio in any case is just P1 by P2, which is just P1 because P2 is given as 1. So we are just comparing MRS and the price of good 1. If MRS is greater than the price of good 1, then you will still buy good 1. Okay, you are going to buy only good 1. But and if it is equal, then you will buy both. But if your MRS is less than your price of good 1 across the board, okay, whatever MRS you have across all of it, if your price of good 1 is more than that, then you will only buy good 2. So your maximum MRS, the highest MRS that is going in case 2 is 2. So if your price of good 1 is even greater than 2, then you will not purchase good 1 at all. And that is exactly what the question is asking you, that what is the price beyond which you will only buy good 2, and that price is 2. Okay, after above the price of 2 you will only buy good 2. Okay, so that is all that was being asked here. Let us move on. So look at the 53rd question. It says that an economy has 3 firms. Every unit of output that X produces creates a benefit of INR 700 for Y and a cost of 300 for Z. Firm X's cost curve is given here. C represents the cost, Q is output, okay, market price for market price for output of X is 1600 per unit. Price is given. Difference between socially optimal output and private profit maximizing output of firm X is. Alright. So let us write down the data and let us go step by step. Okay. So price is given to you first of all as 1600. You have the external effects. There are 2 external effects that are given to you. One is on one is on Y and one is on Z. Both of them are created by X. So it is a benefit to Y, which is 700, and it is a cost to Z, 300. So you can write down that the net benefit per unit is 400. Okay, that is one thing. Then secondly, obviously you are given the total revenue is just PQ 1600Q. So your MR is equal to 1600. Right? Let's take it to a new page. You know that MR is equal to MC. You are given C and MC is going to be 4Q. MC is 4Q is equal to 1600 because MC is equal to MR. Q is equal to 400. This is going to be your private output. Now to find out the social output, you already know what you do. You equate the social marginal benefit. Okay, so now you just calculated that social marginal benefit is 1600 is already given to you plus 400. So 2000 is the social marginal benefit equated to the marginal cost. It is the social marginal cost is the same in our case. So Q is equal to 500. This is QS. This was Q. P. So the difference is obviously nothing but QP minus QS is equal to 100. That is your answer. Let us move on. Okay, so look at the 54th question. Now, I have no idea. Please do not even ask me about this, what on earth this is, and why this was put here. Because obviously, before this and after this, nothing like this was ever asked in the jam paper, and I do not think that this will ever be asked. So, do not waste your time on unnecessary trigonometry related questions. Okay, I'll show you how it's solved, but there is a property that is used in this specific question that even I did not remember, so I needed some extra help. Okay, so I'll show you what the logic is. So, but at one point you might get stuck, okay, if you just use pure logic. I'm sure there are more ways to solve, but let's see what we can do. Right off the bat, if we just differentiate on both sides, we can get rid of the integration sign. That is one of the core properties, right? A fundamental property of integration. So you'll be left with just sine 9x cos 11. What am I doing? Cos 11x dx on the left hand side is equal to the derivative of this thing. So you can simplify this as minus 10 sine 10x f of x plus cos 10x f dash x. This is probably a question that like 100% or 99% of the students just left out, right? Even the people who tried, I don't know how many of them would have gotten this right. Okay, so the best way to go about it is to use a property that will solve this really quickly, which is that cos 11x can be written as cos 10x plus x, and that the formula of that is cos 10x cos x minus sine 10x sin x. Okay, so if we use this, then what should be left with is that finally after a lot of calculation you will be left with cos 10x sine 9x cos x minus sine 10x sine to the power of 10x. So now a very interesting observation that you'll make here is that you can actually compare the left hand side and right hand side. Okay, look at this term. I'll simplify this further to write it in the exact format as our LHS already is. Basically, now what you can do is that you can compare the left hand side and the right hand side, and what that will do for you is that will fetch you the value of fx and f dash x. So look at this, minus we are just comparing this value with this value and this value with this value because we can clearly see that they are symmetric. Okay, so minus sine 10x is equal to minus sine 10x and f dash x, 10 f dash x, fx. This will be cancelled. You will be left with fx is equal to sine to the power of 10x divided by 10. Okay, that is a very very important result. Take it to a new page. Similarly, repeat the same thing with the cos function also. So just cancel it here only. Cos 10x will get cancelled. F dash x is equal to sine to the power of 9x cos x. F dash x is equal to sine 9x cos x, and you can just differentiate this function, and I'm pretty sure that you should get this function, okay, because this is the derivative of that. Now all you have to do is that find f double dash x as well. So f double dash x will look like sine 9 sine 8x square x minus sine 10x. Okay, this is what you'll get, and now you just have to plug in all of the values in this equation and then evaluate at pi by 4, which is 45 degrees. Okay, so now just do that. F dash pi by 4 is equal to 1 upon root 2 to the power 9 multiplied by 1 upon root 2 minus is equal to 1 upon 32. Similarly, f double dash at pi by 4 will be 9 multiplied by 1 upon root 2 to the power 8 1 upon root 2 to the power 2 minus 1 upon root 2 to the power 10, which is 8 upon 32. Let us take this to a new page as well. So now that you have all of the values, 8 upon 32 minus 1 k multiplied by divided by 32 is equal to 0. 8 minus k is equal to 0. K is equal to 8. This is your answer. So this is all of the stuff that you had to do to actually reach the answer. I am sure that right now in hindsight it might look to you that it is not that difficult, but the property is what made the answer very short. If you did not know this, that cos 11x has a property, then that would have made your life very difficult, right? So that is like cos 2x or some value. I'm forgetting the longer formula again. So finally your answer was 8. But should you attempt or even waste your time at such a question? Only if you have like free time, if you have nothing else to do. Even then I would just say that just instead of trying to attempt this, just devote your time to rest of the questions. Just check if their answers are correctly matched and all. Okay, so this is just a waste of time in the actual exam hall. So let us move on. Okay, read the 55th one. Finally, a question that we can understand, right? So it just says that M is this matrix, I is the matrix. If rank of this is equal to 2, then find K. Yeah, I'm not going to be solving this in full. I'll leave the calculation part to you. Okay, this is just a calculation based question. There is nothing else here. I'll just tell you what to do. So 10I minus M is given, right? So you just write 10 minus K minus 1 because I is just 1 0 0 0 1 0, you already know. Minus 1 10 minus K minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 10, sorry, 10 minus K. This is your matrix. They are saying that the rank is 2. When your rank is equal to 2, this means that it is not a full rank matrix. The determinant of that matrix is 0. Okay, find out the determinant and equate it to 0. Finally what you will get is that you will get two values for K. You will get K is equal to 8 and 11. Now that you already have this, you plug these values into this matrix, not into the first matrix, not into M. You plug these into 10I minus M. Now what you will get is that when you use 11, you will get that the rank now that you are getting is equal to 1. Check the rank after that. And when you use 8, the rank that you are getting is 2, and that is also mentioned in the question. So that is how you verify it, and indeed the answer of this question is going to be 8. A very easy question, just it is based on calculation. It will take time, so you give it time and verify it properly. Alright, let's move on. The 56th question says that in a 2-period model, consumer is maximizing the present discounted utility. Alright, this is the function that is given to you with respect to Ct and Ct plus 1. So t is obviously the current period, t plus 1 is the next period. Subject to the following budget constraint is given here, where Ci and Yi are consumption and income in period I is equal to t. Okay, these are just the periods, and respectively theta belongs to 0 to infinity is the time discount rate, and r belongs to is the rate of interest. Consumer is in the interior equilibrium. Theta is given as 0.05, r is given as this. In equilibrium the ratio is equal to, okay, so you just have to find basically. So just form a Lagrange. There is nothing very difficult about this. Just form the Lagrange. It is given to you as log c, right? Okay, log ct plus 1 upon 1 plus theta log ct plus 1. Okay, plus theta. Take this part as y. This is just your income, right? And this is your consumption. So if you just take that part as y, because anyway we have to find Ct, so that is why we are going to be differentiating with respect to Ct. So this will anyways be treated as a constant because we'll be doing partial differentiation. So Ct minus Ct plus 1 upon 1 plus r, right? So now just differentiate it with respect to Ct first of all. So this will become, so what you'll have, I'm just writing the end result. All right, you will have Ct minus lambda is equal to 0. because you have this term and this term, right? Now with ct plus 1, again do the same thing. You will be left with 1 upon 1 plus theta 1 upon ct plus 1 minus lambda 1 upon r, 1 upon 1 plus r is equal to 0. You know what you could have done? Instead of taking ct as lambda here, what if I just take lambda as 1 upon ct, right? So this will be multiplied with 1 upon 1. I'll take this to a new page. This will be multiplied by 1 upon 1 plus r. So 1 upon 1 plus theta. This is one term. Minus 1 upon 1 plus r. This is the second term multiplied by ct. Okay, so now if I take this one term to the other side, I can easily get the ratio of ct in the numerator. Okay, ct plus 1 is in the numerator. So ct plus 1 upon ct is going to look like this goes there and this goes in the numerator, this comes back. So it will be 1 plus r upon 1 plus theta. Okay, and now just substitute in the values. It was 0.08, so 1.08 upon 1.05. This is given to you 1.028. Okay, this is your answer, 1.028. So to 2 decimals, so 1.02, or you can even write 1.03. Okay, let us move on. Right, so the 57th question says that portfolio of an investment firm comprises of two risky assets. S&T returns are denoted by RSRT respectively. Variance, covariance are, so E is given, the expectation, okay, mean is given, variance is given, E of RT is also given, variance of RT and covariance of both of them are also given. Let W is the proportion of assets allotted to S. The return from portfolio R is given here. Value of W which minimizes variance of R. We just have to minimize the variance here. Okay, so don't focus on the rest of the stuff here, that they are risky assets and this and that. Just do what you are supposed to do. Variance of R, it will be equal to W will come out as W square. Variance of RS plus this will become this will also be squared, and variance of RT plus 2AB, right? 2AB. What is A? W. What is B? 1 minus W. And multiplied by covariance of RSRT. RSRT. So just substitute in the values. Just write in. Oh, okay, I just take it to the new page. Just substituting the values, you will get something like 0.07 W square plus 0.051 minus W whole square plus 2 into 0.04 multiplied by W minus W square. Now just differentiate this whole thing with respect to W. Okay, so it was dr, right? Dr by dW. You will get 0.14 W is plus 0.1 into 1 minus W and a minus sign, so minus 10 plus 10 W plus 8 minus 16 W is equal to 0. That becomes 24 minus 16, 8 W minus 2 is equal to 0. W is equal to 2 by 8 is equal to 1 by 4 is equal to 0.25. That is your answer. Make sure I didn't make a calculation error because I probably might have. Okay, I'm kind of sleepy right now. So please make sure and calculate for yourself. So look at question number 58. Number x is randomly chosen from set of first 100 natural numbers. Probability that x satisfies this condition is, okay, let us just work around with the condition that we have. Maybe we will get something from it. Maybe, maybe not. There is no harsh in trying. So x square plus 65x, sorry, minus 65x plus 300 is greater than 0. So just solve for this. You'll get something like x square minus 60. Okay, I'll just write it down. Square minus 60 minus x minus 5x plus 300. Okay, so you know that x is equal to 5 and 60. Now comes the tricky part. Now comes the part where most of the students get confused and where they are going to make the mistake. The mistake that they are going to make is that they are going to write x. They'll write that x is greater than 5 and less than 60. They are going to be counting the numbers between this. 60 minus 5 is 55 and they are going to ruin everything. 2 marks lost just like that. What is the correct way to solve this? So you have to understand the logic behind it if you want to solve it. The logic is, let us say you have a graph. You have already seen that the coefficient of x square is positive. X square is a parabola and it is opening upwards. Its bottom point is below. So what happens here is that you already know that x is equal to 5 and 60. This means that this equation is being satisfied is equal to 0 at 5 and 60. So this is what your parabola looks like. This is 5, this is 60. The numbers between 5 and 60, the graph is below the x-axis. So the values are not natural numbers, they are negative values. Only outside of this parabola are the values positive. So you have that your x is supposed to be less than 5 and it is supposed to be greater than 60. And you have to understand that using logic. Okay, nobody else is going to tell you that in the exam hall. This is the region that we are talking about, and that is what was the tricky part about this question. So now just solve it. First four natural numbers, 1 2 3 4. Do I have to teach this? And then 100 minus 60, 40 numbers there. So obviously we are not going to be including 60 in this. That is why we are not adding 1, otherwise it would have been plus 1 as well. So just 40 plus 4, it is 44 divided by the total number of natural numbers. 100 is included, right? Yes, first 100. So your answer is 0.44. That is why you have to be careful in the exam as well. 0.44 is your answer. Let us move on. Okay, so let us read the 59th. Dude, I'm so sleepy right now. I'm recording this for the second time. I just recorded it and I just solved it and I forgot to press record. So yeah, anyways. So let us read the question now. Let me just check. Am I recording? Yes. K belongs to R. F of x is given here. X is equal to 3 by 2. I just solved this. So is a point of local minima of F and M is global minima. Okay, M is a global minima and 3 by 2 is given as local minima. So you have to just find this equation. So just first of all write down the value of f of x, x square plus 2x cube plus kx square minus k. Then so you know that to find the local minima, what you do is that you first of all differentiate the whatever equation you have, and then you equate it to 0, and then whatever value of x you get, that is your local minima, right? So let me differentiate this equation. You get 4x cube plus 6x square plus 2kx is equal to 0. So 3 by 2 should satisfy this equation. So 4 multiplied by 27 by 8 plus 6 multiplied by 9 by 4 plus 2k into 3 by 2 is equal to 0. You solve this and the k that you're gonna get is k will be minus 9. Okay, then you are going to use this k and you are going to substitute this into the actual equation of this one, into f of x. So your equation is going to look like x4 plus 2x cube minus 9x square plus 9. Okay, so now you find your global minima. How do you do that? We again do the same process. We'll differentiate this 6x square minus 18x. Okay, now we equate it to 0. Before that, if we just do one more step and take out 2x common, you will get 2x square. We are just trying to simplify our process as much as we can, because if you just try to find the values from this, it will be slightly harder, right? Plus 3x minus 9 is equal to 0, right? So now what you've done is that we're just trying to simplify as much as we can, right? So 2x we took common, x is equal to 0 is a free value that we already got. So now what you can do is that you just solve this equation. You'll get x as 0, we already figured out. Then the other two values that you'll get from this equation is just use it. Just use the formula minus b plus minus b square minus 4ac upon 2a. Use it, you'll get these two values. Okay, so when you do get these values, we'll be testing f of x at each of these values. F of 0, first of all, f of 0 is equal to, you'll get 9. Please verify these calculations. 3 by 2, f of 3 by 2, you'll get 9 by 16. And finally f of minus 3 will be minus 45. Okay, so clearly this is your lowest value, which is also your global minimum. This is m. Okay, and what did you have to find? You had to find f of 0 minus m. F of 0 was 9, so this means 9 minus minus 45, so you get 54. This is your final answer. Okay, so not very difficult. Just the only thing is that you should know this step, that how you get local minima and how you get, you should know this. Obviously this is very important. Let's move on. All right, guys, we have finally made it to the last question of the 2023 paper. It has definitely been a journey for me and for you. I know that for a fact. So let us look at this one. It says that x star y star is the optimum solution of this problem. Maximize this subject to this. So just form the Lagrange, easiest method ever. It is God's gift to you that you can just directly form the Lagrange. So just ignore the 100, it is a constant value. Then minus lambda, or just plus lambda, ex plus y minus e upon e minus 1. Okay, so we'll take the derivative with respect to x first of all. So you should get e to the power of minus x minus lambda e is equal to 0. So you'll get something like, okay, so we have formed two equations. Just divide both of the equations with each other. Okay, equation 1 by 2, this is also a very efficient method to go about it. So what you'll just get is okay, you'll just get e to the power of x plus 1 is equal to e y. You'll just get y is equal to x plus 1. Okay, so now we can just plug this into the constraint that we had. Ex plus y is equal to ex plus y is equal to e upon e minus 1. Is it e? So x common, e plus 1 is equal to 1 upon e minus 1. X is equal to 1 upon e square minus 1. Okay, you have x. Now for y, you just add it up. You just add 1 to it, right? X plus 1. So plus 1 is equal to 1 plus e square minus 1. E square minus 1. So it is e square upon e square minus 1. So now that you have both y and x, just write y upon x. It is equal to what is it? E square upon e square minus 1 divided by 1 upon e square minus 1. So you get e, okay, this gets everything gets cancelled. You are left with e square, and we have to find the root of y by x. So we root it up. You get e is your answer, and up to 2 decimal points, right? So you just write e, and the value of that is 2.72. Okay, so that is all that you had to do. So that was the end of the 2023 paper, guys. I hope that you watched it till the very end, and I hope that it helped you a lot. This was definitely one of the most difficult papers of IIT JAM. I'll definitely be posting a lot more videos very soon, so be sure to subscribe and like the video. If you have any doubts about anything, you can message me directly on anywhere. All my links are in the YouTube description. So I'll see you soon, and best of luck.